Good morning to the short track racing world. I am Bob Dillner. Alongside of me, Casey LaJoy. He was a little bit cold down in Cordele, Georgia this past weekend.
Yeah, a little bit. It's a lot colder in other places, though. So I'll take a little windy and maybe low 50s, high 40s rather than -12 and snowy.
Yeah, -10 for a high or something like that in the Chicago area this week. I'm sure Kevin Ramsell will be chiming in on social media shortly, giving us this weather report, because Kevin tells us about all the current events across America, no matter what they are. We always get texts every single week from Kevin Ramsell. We appreciate that about him. Dude, there's nothing to talk about this week, is there?
Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Let's see if we can recap a little bit. Conor O'Kresick wins Speedfest 2019 in Cordele, Georgia. Michael Scott, not from The Office, wins the Chili Willy in Tucson, Arizona. Jason Height wins the National 100. And Zach Evans and Dylan are saying, man, they're stealing all of our stories. We got to let people know right off the bat what went on. Andy J won up the indoor race up at Atlantic City. Stephen Nasse and Casey Roderick won't be having dinner together anytime soon. A lot of discussion yesterday. Kyle Busch stirred a social media storm with the announcement that the Snowball Derby was going to controlled cautions this year. We'll talk about that on the show, and we have Tim Bryant to talk about that. And of course, a lot of discussion about a little pre-race pit party, so to speak, a little discussion between some of the drivers and some of the officials for the CRA Super Series, and as well as the Southern Super Series, and a lot of other people involved there. So interesting.
Yeah, this is the first weekend of racing for us as 51ers to go and cover a late model race, and holy cow, everything just kind of at one time.
Yeah, I like that. We're going to have to save that sound effect for the future. Mark Keeler also with us this morning.
Yeah, at least, if nothing else, we can say it wasn't boring this weekend by any means. But like you said, pre-race, post-race, the whole 9 yards. So it was good. It was good and exciting.
I was just mad a little bit. I didn't see any fisticuffs or throwing helmets or anything with Casey Roderick.
I didn't take the camera in time because the helmet did get tossed, but that was in the pit area, okay. I think. But yeah, I saw that kind of on the cool-down lap. I could say, they weren't too pleased with each other. So Casey definitely went over and tried to speak his piece, and it got a little bit heated. There was some cell phone video that we couldn't really post because it would have taken a lot of editing for audio. So, but yeah, no, like I said, it wasn't boring.
Listen, Angie and I and Blaze, we are having his birthday party. Happy birthday again to Blaze. This past weekend, we celebrated his birthday, and we were watching from the birthday party, and we were seeing that Angie and I were yelling, going, Mark, forget about Victory Lane.
Oh, I did.
Forget it. Let's show that.
I feel bad because he's climbing out, and I'm hearing the interview start, and I'm like, I got to keep this camera on. I can't go anywhere other than this. So.
I wish I would have known, because me and Tom were so locked in, and usually you hear the crowd fire up when there's a wreck or a fight, but there was nothing. If we would have heard something, a cue, we would have probably been like, oh man, what's going on? But me and Tom had no clue. When Mark had to come on the radio and said, you guys probably want to head to tech because Nasse's going back there, and I think Roderick's back there too. And we're like, what? What's going on?
It happens. So plenty to talk about. Of course, today's show presented by OnlineRacingSchool.com. Here is our lineup. Online Racing School, March 9th and 10th in Nashville, Tennessee. The one at Stafford that we told you about last week actually has been postponed due to the fact that it was supposed to be on the same day as the Super Bowl and all that good stuff. So it's probably not a good idea to hold a seminar on the same day as the Super Bowl in New England.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to work.
Being that the Patriots are there, Casey. Shut up. Anyway, let's go right to the Online Racing School hotline and join our editor for Speed51.com, Brandon Paul. Brandon, like I told Casey, not much to talk about this morning, is there?
No, not at all. I was wondering what we might talk about. I mean, there was nothing big on social media or anything happening this week, so I don't know. No Patriots game. I don't know what we're going to talk about.
Oh, my. Where do you begin, dude? Where do you begin?
Oh, man, you have to begin with the whole Snowball Derby thing. I mean, I went to a local hockey game yesterday and scrolling through my phone during intermissions and breaks and stuff, and Kyle Busch and Chase Elliott, and Eric Jones, Christopher Bell, pretty much everybody in the racing world was talking about that yesterday. And obviously we're referring to the announcement that the Snowball Derby in 2019 will no longer feature live pit stops and will now use the controlled cautions. And I mean, I thought about this a lot yesterday as I saw different opinions come out and whatnot. I interacted in the social media stuff a little bit, but honestly, personally, I fall into like the middle of where people are arguing. I would love to have live pit stops. I am not arguing against that. I think everybody would argue that the live pit stops add some excitement for the race fans. But in my opinion, what it was developing into at the Snowball Derby was more than what it was ever meant to be. With cup crews coming in, truck crews coming in, $3,500, $5,000 being spent on a race that pays $25,000 to win. I just think it has gone too far. So that's basically where I stand. I think it's a good move that Tim Bryant ultimately had to make in order to possibly increase the car counts moving forward. So like I said, I'm kind of in the middle, but I think this was Tim's best move for the future of the Snowball Derby.
I got a lot of different opinions on this subject, and of course, we're going to have Tim Bryant on the Morning Bullring here coming up a little bit later on in the show to discuss that, a little bit of fallout and a lot of positivity as well. There's a lot of ways to look at this entire thing. I'm kind of on the fence a little bit. To some degree, I understand the business decision, but I think, so much talk about the car count and so forth. And I think that's a lot of hogwash, honestly. And I talked to Dwayne Canfield, my good buddy from upstate New York who works for us yesterday, and he said that too. Well, I remember when I was at the Snowball Derby 3 years ago, there were almost 70 cars, and now there was 49 this past year. Listen, car counts have gone down everywhere else. And I will say this, okay? And Tim Bryant knows that I've said this for a long time, okay? To some degree, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Okay. Okay. You could say the car count was a little bit broke this year, but honestly, it's that upheaval of the social media platform that has made that a significant subject. Okay. Because Brandon Paul did a great story on comparisons of car counts, and I suggest you go read that on speed51.com. You can find it in our archive. If the Southern Super Series was a sanctioned race, it would have been is either top 3 or definitely top 5 in terms of car count for the entire year.
Right.
Listen, go fix the Winchester 400. Go fix the All-American 400. Go fix the other races that need help to some degree without delving into a race that has been very successful throughout time, especially over the last decade, Mark. I thought you wanted to talk.
Well, no, I agree with you wholeheartedly. And honestly, I remember probably this time last year, and you were heavily against doing a pit stop. Yeah. And so to hear you say now you're on the fence, and I remember we've talked just recently, and it's like, you're not convinced one way or the other, which I get, but it's an evolution. Obviously, and I think car counts to some degree are cyclical to a point.
Yes.
They rise and fall everywhere. I mean, look at Speed Weeks at New Smyrna. Okay, it went down. I mean, let's just take the modifieds. Yeah. Last year, one of the best fields in 20 years, and this year shaping up to be an even better field. And so I think it's somewhat cyclical, and I think you have to take that into account. I really don't think it had as much to do with the car count. Obviously, there's one or two or a couple of guys here and there that are going to be upset and maybe not go or not spend the money, but is that going to make a difference in the overall show? Like you're saying, there's plenty of other shows to fix, but I just wanted to say, to hear you honestly go back onto that fence and say, okay, let's look at it. It was quite surprising just because of knowing because you're a traditionalist, and I love that. I am too to some degree, because we grew up in the same era of racing. But yeah, and even I at the end of last year and after last year's Derby said, maybe they do have to take a look at it and maybe just try something.
Here's what I would say, Casey. Yeah. I don't like it.
Yeah,
I don't like it. I like live pit stops, and if you look, a lot of people, especially on Kyle Busch's post, supported him, that they want to see. And there was one lady that actually went on there and said, hey, I've been going to the Snowball Derby for a long time. I haven't for the past couple of years because I haven't been able to, but I went there because I wanted to see the live pit stops. And it was the one true race, late model wise, left in America, is what I have always said. Okay, now you could say the Oxford 250 is still, but they have a lot of stuff in terms of, draw for qualifying and so forth that gets into the mix, and I think that's great drama. But this was the one true race left in America, and it's like Kyle Busch said, it's the Super Bowl of super late model racing. It's the Daytona 500 of late model racing. And because of that, I think that this is not necessarily the best of things for fans, but the business decision, and we'll call this, honestly, let's call it for what it is. Okay, we're starting early on the morning Bullring. Okay, and later on we're going to talk a lot more and talk about some ideas and some experiences down there as well. But this is honestly the Stephen Nasse clause. Okay, let's just cut right to it. Okay, if Stephen Nasse didn't go down after losing his tire because of a loose wheel that was put on by a paid pit crew and go down there and attack his darn crew,
it was pretty funny though.
We might not be talking about this.
Somebody did. I did see on social media right after the announcement was weighed. Somebody said, "Who's Stephen Nasse going to go after now?"
Yeah. But it's true. I mean, you pay $3,500. Kyle Busch said it was $3,500. I've heard up to $7,500. I think that's a little bit out there. I think it was right around the $4,500, $5,000 realm from what I took a poll on. Maybe some people were stupid and didn't shop around. Okay. But the bottom line is that if that didn't happen, here's social media again. It's like the car count thing. Okay. Honestly, if that didn't happen, then the Snowball Derby is okay. Okay. And just like that, social media had an impact, I believe, on this decision when Stephen Nasse kicked his crew chief's, his crew, not his crew chief, but his crew's butt after not doing their job because it was a hired gun pit crew.
Here's what I'll say. I think 3,500 is a low number. You'll get a good pit crew, but you're not getting what other people are paying for. I mean, there's a couple guys that hire full blown, and I'm not going to. I have
name them.
I mean, Chiquette hires a full-on 88 team, and I can promise you that's more than $3,500. Especially when you look at, okay, we got to put them up for a night, or we're going to fly them in for the day. I could see it from both sides.
The overall cost.
I've been over the wall for my brother and carried tires, and done it that way. And every time we came down pit road, we gained 5 spots over these Cup teams. It could be done.
And we'll talk about this.
I know.
Let us know your opinion using the hashtag Morning Bullring. Let us know because we want to hear it. We want to talk about what you're saying here on our program. So do you think, and there's a poll right now too, it's got like 300-something votes, and right now controlled cautions are leading by just a little bit over the live pit stops. But I think some of that are the competitors that are voting. And that's fine, too, because everybody needs a say. Go onto the Speed 51 Twitter page presented by PFC Brakes. Vote on that poll. It'll be active throughout the day until about 2, 3 o'clock. We want to know what you think. We're polling the general public, but we also want your comment. Use the hashtag Morning Bullring either on Facebook or you can do it as well on Twitter as well. And remember, share today's episode of the Morning Bullring, because if you do so, 2 tickets for the Winter Showdown out at Kern County Raceway Park. That's this weekend, Friday and Saturday in Bakersfield, California. We are giving away 2 tickets that will be available at the will call window for the Winter Showdown. If you share this, you will have a chance to win those 2 tickets. You have to share the Facebook Live post this morning. So we cut to the chase. We're going to cut right in the middle of it, cut our discussion off, and go back to Brandon Paul. We know you're still with us on the Online Racing School hotline.
I forgot he was there.
No, I was just listening, and I was ready to pop in at any time. But anyways, obviously, that wasn't the only major story this weekend on Speed51.com. As we first reported, the town hall meeting that developed at the drivers' meeting at CRA Speedfest also grabbed some attention, and obviously Bubba Pollard. If you haven't read the story yet, check it out on Speed51.com. But Bubba Pollard kind of led that whole deal in speaking up and in trying to host a town hall meeting of sorts. About short track racing, about the future of late model racing. Obviously, some of that had to do with the rules and stuff like that. And expanding on that further, the new 5-star body that obviously has been a big topic of conversation. So that was another big story. And I I kind of agree with both again. I mean, I believe that obviously drivers should have a voice. I mean, they're the ones, they're paying money, they're taking their time to go race and to go put on a show for the fans, so they should have a voice. But I think R.J. Scott kind of summed it up well, and I agree with him on this point when he said that other drivers, say guys that aren't your Bubba Pollards, guys that aren't your Kyle Bushes, the more low-budget racers, they may feel a little bit nervous to speak up in that sort of situation when you have guys like Bubba, who's sort of the face of late model racing. Other drivers may feel nervous to kind of disagree or whatnot with him. So I don't know where I stand exactly on that. I do think that there needs to be more coordination, I guess you could say, between drivers and promoters. I don't know if maybe that's some sort of conference call, or obviously it's hard to get everybody in one location. But something of that sort probably needs to be done. But those other drivers do need to have a voice, because just like with the live pit stop thing, if you continue on with that, eventually you're just going to have the drivers who can afford to be there and afford to play by the rules being set. So you have to have those other drivers involved in order to solidify the future of late model racing.
Drivers, promoters, let's not forget one other thing, and that's the fans. They deserve a voice to some degree, at least to be considered in the entire mix as well, Brandon Paul. So we appreciate you for joining us on the Online Racing School hotline right now. We're going to get Connor O'Kresick, the Speedfest winner, on here in just a second. But I think I'm going to disagree, honestly, with R.J. Scott and talk about this a little bit, because I don't believe, unless you're a teenager, that you're afraid of Bubba Pollard.
Right.
I think people, we've seen it on social media, are not afraid of anything. Of course, there's a black veil of anonymity on Twitter and Facebook, but I think people voice their opinion when they want these days, and there's no change in that whatsoever. So I don't quite agree. I respect R.J. Scott, but I don't quite agree. But I do believe, and I talked to Bubba and Kyle about this yesterday. A lot of people, I thought Brandon was going to go this angle, and Kyle and I talked about this yesterday, is, he said, and he put in quotes when we were texting, I'm a rich guy. So, people may not think I relate to them, okay? But honestly, Kyle is a common racer.
Yep.
He's passionate. Okay, yes, he's probably got more money than, say, an Alan Carnes or somebody, although Alan Carnes has got a decent amount of money. But somebody like that, okay? Yeah. So, some people may not say they relate to him. I say BS, okay? I say, honestly, I'm getting passionate about it because I do believe that Kyle has the best interest of late model racing in his heart. I really do, because he wants to see him have a good time. He wants to see the Bubba Pollards of the world and the Jeff Chiquettes and the Stephen Nasseys be able to make a living. And he also wants to see the young upstarts like Connor O'Kresick. And great question, by the way, that he deflected. And the fact that, hey, the last time you beat somebody on the racetrack, Eric Jones, you gave him a ride. What about Connor O'Kresick? And he never answered your question, which is a great job by Kyle Busch.
I think it's because he can't spell O'Kresick's last name. I
there
think
you
that's
go.
what it was.
It's like an eye chart.
Yeah. In all fairness, Bob misspelled it on our little rundown sheet.
Oh, there you go. Like I said,
you made
like
him Polish. It became O'Kresky.
It sounds like a hockey player.
I'm sure it was like, the autocorrect or whatever. But I get back to the fact that, I think Bubba Pollard and Kyle Busch do have the best interest at heart. And I do believe, listen, this sounds like, oh, well, you're going to say it needs to be a union. No, but if the promoters from the series and the tracks and so forth should have a voice, guess what? So should the drivers, so should the fans. And here's what I'm going to do. If anybody wants to come on the Morning Bullring or the Unfiltered podcast, which is coming back, by the way, okay, possibly this week if we get off our butts and do it, but I open it up to this studio, Studio 51. Let's get a bunch of people in here. We'll discuss bodies. We'll discuss engines. We'll discuss the rear ends in these late models. We will discuss everything. Costs, you name it. How to get more people in the grandstands and not go by the old school traditional racing of having just a bunch of racing at a racetrack. Okay? We'll discuss everything right here on the Morning Bullring or on an Unfiltered podcast, and we'll discuss it out in the open. everybody has the opportunity to come to Studio 51 and talk about these sort of things. Open forum, roundtable discussion. Casey LaJoy and I, we'll shut up. Yep. We'll set it up. We'll let the players fly. Okay, if Greg McCarnes, if R.J. Scott, if Ricky Brooks, Tim Bryant, Tom Mayberry, Alan Dietz, Chris Regal, the drivers, the teams, Anthony Campy, you name it. Okay, if they want to come to the Morning Bullring or the Unfiltered Podcast, this will be the house here in Speed 51 to get your opinion out there.
A comment I see on our Facebook page, Tim Neal said, Bob, stop defending those rich guys. Bob's not defending those rich guys.
Come on.
I mean, Kyle said a lot of true statements yesterday on Twitter, and that's why I joined the conversation.
Yes.
And I think in the beginning he thought I was kind of being condescending because I'm like, all right, what would you fix if you don't like this? No, I wanted his honest opinion because clearly he's passionate about short track racing. He wouldn't do it. He wouldn't still want to run the Snowball Derby or talk about the Snowball Derby if he wasn't passionate about it. I wanted to know from his standpoint, what if he doesn't like controlled pit stops, then what do we have to do? All we hear about these days is how this needs to be cheaper. It's too expensive. We can't go. It's too expensive. I don't want to run the Snowball. I can't afford it. Okay. Well, then let's figure out how to make it cheaper. Racing is expensive, and I get that, and that's just the hard truth these days. But there are a lot of ways that we can make it cheaper, and we have to talk about it. You can't just keep it behind the door here.
And I love that opinion, and I appreciate whoever that was that chimed in and said that. But Mark, Tom, Casey know one thing about me. I don't kiss ass, okay? I do not kiss ass, okay? I tell you what's in my heart, what's in my head, and here, like I said, this is my stance on it, okay? I accept going to the controlled cautions from a business standpoint, but I don't necessarily agree that it's going to make a better Snowball Derby because I love the live pit stop angle.
Right, yeah.
Bottom line.
It's easy to look at it and step back and say, okay, people want to cut costs. Well, pit crews are a big cost. That's an easy, quick fix cut that not everybody's going to be happy with, but a lot of people are happy with.
You know what else
well.
is a big cost?
Oh, you're killing us now.
Renting tracks.
Yes.
And private testing and private practices.
That's all part of the discussion. Absolutely. Yep. Testing, tires, it's the double T right there. Okay, let's go because we're only 4 minutes behind this morning. We're doing pretty good.
Yeah, we're going into overtime.
That's only because the Chili Willy winner can't get up earlier. Anyway, we're going to try. We went from 10:30 to 10. We're going to try to go to 9:45 this morning. We're going to go to the Online Racing School hotline, and that's where Connor O'Kresick, the winner for Speedfest 2019, is. And Connor, we're going to segue here. Okay, and we're going to talk about the big win, but I want to know, since we're on the topic, what do you think about the Snowball Derby going to controlled cautions this coming year?
I mean, I agree with the call. Any costs, any way to save money for the racers is a good call, in my opinion. I can see it from the fan perspective of how they want the live pit stops just so it adds excitement. But I honestly think it'd be a better race with controlled cautions because we have more than 14 seconds to work on the car and get it ready for the next segment after we change tires. So we're going to have more time to do it. So I think it's going to make a more competitive race in the end, and it's going to save $4,500 for all the racers in the field. So I do like the call.
Connor, when did you get so good? When did you get so good at your answers, dude? I remember at the Snowball Derby preview, you would kind of like say 10 words and then just stop.
He's not in front of a camera. He's on a phone. This is the thing.
Yeah, I do a lot better when I'm on the phone, to be honest.
So we're going to interview Connor on the phone from now on.
Next time you're in Victory Lane, I'll just call you and I'll stand on the other side of the racetrack, and then we'll just do the interview that way.
Dude,
all right.
Dude, let me tell you, and I have a tweet prepared, and I haven't done it yet. I'm still going to do it between my son's birthday party and then, working on stuff yesterday. I haven't had a chance, but I wanted to tell you how proud I am of you and how you've grown. And I think, what's interesting about Speedfest, if you look at the last 3 years, okay, the last 3 years, a driver has got their first signature super late model win. Harrison Burton 3 years ago, Chandler Smith last year, and now you this year. What is it like now, Monday morning here on the Bullring, talking about the fact that you are a Speedfest winner?
Oh, I mean, it feels amazing. It's just it's been a surreal experience for the last 2 days. Even, I mean, as soon as the checkered flag fell, it's just amazing. And I mean, I haven't got off the cloud nine since then. I mean, I felt just absolutely incredible for the past 2 days.
I mean, no offense to you, Connor, but there's 7 laps to go in this race. And you're lining up next to Kyle Busch, and I'm looking at the front row, and it's Connor O'Kresick, and it's Kyle Busch, and I'm like, I'm going to have to pick Kyle here because this is Kyle Busch. And they say that when you do Cup restarts that you become a master of all restarts, and obviously Kyle is a master of restarts, so I'm like, all right, I think Connor's going to learn a lesson here. And you smoked him, dude. Like, what were you thinking? I know after you get to process everything, what were you thinking there under that caution with 7 to go, and you got the best in the business lining up next to you?
I mean, as soon as the caution came out, I was really upset. I was like, dang it. I had a really big lead, and I just lost everything. But then I'm like, I calmed down. I had to just calm myself and be like, okay, this is just like any other restart. I've beat him on every single restart of the day so far, so this shouldn't be any different, besides the fact that I went in the inside instead of the outside.
When he called you, when he went up to you, sorry, I'm talking to people about calls coming up, but when he came up and he talked to you after the race, what was the first thing that he said to you besides congratulations?
He just told me that it was a really, really fun race. He had a good time racing me. It was basically the extent of what he said. That's
pretty cool. That's cool. I mean, to get your first signature win, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
To beat Kyle Busch, that just adds to it for sure. And I know you have a big year plan this year. And I'm hearing maybe, I'm going to put you on a spot here, maybe a little ARCA racing too, maybe. What's going on, Connor?
I mean, maybe. We'll find out very soon, I guess, won't we?
Oh, that was very sly. I like that. He just said,
answer.
okay, I'm not going to answer that right now, Bob. But I love you, Connor. I love you. I'm hoping to see you in the ARCA ranks.
I was thinking about this. The year that Harrison Burton won Speedfest, did he also go on to win the Rattler and Speed Week's championship first and then Rattler in the beginning?
No, because he won the Rattler last year. Harrison Burton.
That's right.
Yep, so it was a year after. But I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to say that Connor O'Kresick, you're going to win the Rattler, aren't you, Connor?
Yeah.
I'm going to try. That's the goal. We're going to try to win every single race we get to go to this year.
So, dude, you're, 17, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so 17, what is it like for a 17-year-old the Monday morning after you win Speedfest? What are you doing? What's going on in Connor O'Kresick's life?
I'm just standing around doing an interview right now.
He was going to sleep in.
I know that, dude.
He was going to sleep in, and then we
bugged him.
have
school, you know, what do you have for breakfast of champions? I mean, what's going on?
I mean, nothing too special for breakfast. I mean, I did have work today, but this interview kind of push that back.
So do I need to write out an excuse, you know, for work or whatever?
I'll be fine.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
We'll bring in the trophy. He'll just bring the trophy in.
Yeah. So when's it?
I'll show them this interview.
So when's the next chance we're going to see you on the racetrack? Is it the Rattler coming up in mid-March at South Alabama Speedway?
It's either going to be that race or it's going to be the Alabama 200. I can't remember which race comes first. I haven't looked at the schedule.
Alabama 200 comes first at Montgomery Motor Speedway, Stan Narrison's racetrack there. That'll be fun. That'll be the first weekend
second
in
and third,
March, something like that.
Somewhere in there.
We should probably look that
and
up.
And a new date and time for that race, too, being in the springtime.
Absolutely. Well, Connor O'Kresick, we appreciate you coming on the Online Racing School hotline, and a big congratulations, buddy. Wear that proud this week for sure.
All right, I will. Thank you.
Connor O'Kresick, you were there. You interviewed him.
Yep.
Dude, I meant to ask him that too. I've never seen him more pumped up.
I know.
I thought Tom, when he edited the recap video, which you can see live on, not live, but you can see on the Speed 51 Video Network as a premium member, how he pumped his fist. I thought like Tom sped it up.
Yeah. No.
He likes his pom poms.
That was real time. And Mark, we talked about this after the race. That kid.
You're going to steal my thunder?
Yes.
And what I was just going to say?
I'll segue it into you. That kid is
we don't have time for Mark.
So composed. So composed under pressure.
He is.
In the race car, he's on flat, and he's been that way since I've watched him from his first race with the Blizzard series, or not Blizzard, it was actually Alan Turner Prolate. Because like what Casey was saying, when it was 7 to go, and it was either Zach or Cody that I looked at, and I said, the kid's unflappable. I think one time I've seen him spin his tires on a restart. He does not get shook. So it's just so impressive at his age and what he's able to do. And I think having Mike Garvey with him really helps a lot, having a veteran like that in your ear and kind of walking you through stuff.
Garvey, love him. Plus, he also has Chris Davidson to kick anybody's butt if they mess with Connor O'Kresick. So that's the bottom line. All right. Coming up. No, actually, we're going to chill out. Tom, by the way, this is his fault here. We can't go to break and get Jonathan Davenport on the phone because he was doing his little live thing and not ready for the commercial break, Tommy boy. Now he is. We're going to go to break here on the Morning Bullring. It's a raw show. We never promised to be polished here on the Morning Bullring.
Brakes. More championships than any other. From late models to modifieds on pavement and dirt. With at-track service like no other. Success means no compromises.
A 5th win of the year for Ty Majeski. He'll take it.
Lighter, stiffer, cooler, quicker. PFC Brakes. The secret is it's quicker.
The Boars Compact Touring Series is a 4-cylinder front-wheel drive mess. And it's coming to a track near you. A dozen races in 3 different states in 2019 will keep the 4-cylinder fans buzzing with excitement. The famed Lucas Oil Raceway and other trips too.
Anderson, Shady Bowl, Toledo, Fairfield,
Winchester. Plus, it's Bristol, baby. Returns on May 31st.
Racecar Engineering is your single-source supplier for all your racing equipment. Dirt, asphalt, drag strip, street rod, or off-road. Their experts can keep you on the track and in the lead no matter what type of racing you do. Hundreds of brands, thousands of parts. Find them online at racecareng.com or call them toll-free at 800-882-7231 and make sure to ask for your free catalog. That's Racecar Engineering, 800-882-7231.
We're doing a lot of things, shuffling, getting Jonathan Davenport on the phone. We'll be talking to him in just a minute here on the Morning Bullring, the Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series champion from 1 year ago. Remember, we're 100% short track racing, but a couple of cool comments on our discussion already. Aaron Creed chiming in on Twitter. He says he likes what the ROC 250, the Race of Champions Modified Series, does with their big race in regards to pit stops. It will be cool to see how it translates to super late model racing, but he's not sold that it would work on how tight pit road is at Five Flags Speedway. Renee Hackett just did a diatribe on Facebook, and we're going to talk about that as well. But I believe we have old JD on the phone. That's right, Superman himself. Let's go to the online racing school hotline and join the now 2-time Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series champion, Jonathan Davenport. Jonathan, you got the sleepers out of your eyes or what?
Yeah, just barely. To say the truth, I knew I had this big pain going on Monday morning, so I've been in the bed sick past couple of days. I went urgent care last night.
Oh, no.
Medicine. So I'm sitting here with my Pedialyte, saltine crackers, and I'm getting better.
There's something going on in Georgia because Bubba Pollard was sick as all get out, too.
And Bubba and Jonathan are fans, friends.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they said I had the stomach flu virus.
Oh man! Well, make sure you get that rectified before I see you at Brunswick this week.
Or stay away from it.
Dude, well, I appreciate you coming on. You could have texted me and said I'm sick as a dog, but I appreciate you coming on for sure this morning.
If I felt like I did the past 2 days, I probably would have, but I'm on the upswing now, so we're doing better.
All right. Well, how about talking about something good? Okay.
All right.
I've seen some pictures of you hunting this winter and fishing. Which has been more successful for you?
Neither one. It gets me out of the house, gives me something to do. But no, I had never done much hunting or fishing, really, just to tell you the truth of my life. My dad, he never did anything like that. And we just raced all our life. And my wife went home to see my mom here a couple of weeks ago, and she said she was looking through her family photos, all photos of me was just with a race car or working on a race car or in a race car. And she's like, "Where was your childhood?" I said, "That was my childhood." So now, I got the opportunity to try to do a few other things in life and try to do some different things with my son Blaine, and everything's working out very well.
Yeah, I can't wait to see Blaine down in Brunswick to start the season. Every year, Blaine's just growing and growing and growing. I remember back in 2015 when you won the championship for the first time, he was like this little kid. Now he's getting to be this bigger kid. But always great to see your family very involved with you and that entire Lance Landers team. Of course, the Dream Team came together last year. You won the championship for the second time. What do you think about your chances to go for the hat trick? Are you a hockey fan, by the way?
No, not much of a hockey fan.
Do you know what a hat trick is?
No, I do not.
Okay, he's like Christopher Bell.
Yeah.
Racers just don't know. If you score 3 times in hockey, it's called a hat trick. So how about a third title this year? What do you think the chances are?
I think we got just as good a chance as anybody. Kevin's not going to be with us, but me and him are still great friends, and he's going to have his own card. He's just a phone call or a text away. So if I need anything, but Jason Durham, he does a great job for us, Tyler, and we still got all of our notes from all the times I've ran Longhorn cars. So we'll progress forward. We'll be just fine.
Moving forward here into 2019, you got anything new working, any new races you're going to run, or what's kind of the plan going into 2019?
I think 2019 is pretty much going to mirror what we did in 18. Of course, we're going to start off at Brunswick, of course, and then go to East Bay and end up Volusia. And then we'll just pretty much run the same schedule as we did, still hit all the crown jewels, including, but not limited to the Lucas Oil Series. So, it's hard to put any more races in, as many races as we do a year, but we still try to go along that same path each year.
You didn't go to Arizona, and I think I saw a tweet that watching it on Dirt, you kind of said, yeah, I don't know if we made the right decision not going out to Arizona. For the teams that did that, Jonathan, do you think they're a step ahead, or what was the comment, what was behind that comment that you made on Twitter?
Well, I mean, I'm a racer, I want to be racing every day, as long as my equipment's ready and, it's not going to put us behind for the start of the series for the Lucas Oil Series, because that's going to be our main focus. But we just didn't quite have all of our stuff ready. We're going to try to plan on a little bit better next year and try to have some newer cars built earlier. So maybe we can go to Arizona, and then when we get back, we'll have our new stuff sitting there ready to go.
Looking at last year, I couldn't believe, and looking at some of the stats, you didn't win a TV race after, I think, the Georgia-Florida Speed Weeks. You won, a good amount of races last year. But, I know talking to you and the competitor that you are, man, you wanted to win more. I mean, if you look at what you did in 2015 versus last year, a few less wins in your championship, you were a lot more consistent last year. So, is that the goal this year while you have your eye on the prize, which is the championship, to win some more races?
Yeah, it really is. I knew our first championship at Lance Landers would be the hardest one to get. And maybe I didn't take as many chances this year as I would have had, been a little bit more conservative with setups and tire choices and things like that. But I knew that was our ultimate goal when we first sat down and put this team together, was to win the championship. So now we got that knocked out of the way. We got one crown jewel knocked down. So, now we can be a little bit more aggressive in what we're doing. And, of course, we'd like to repeat and win another championship, but it's not quite as important as the first one.
You got Speed Weeks coming up, as Bob talked about, and just that's my favorite part of the year. It's every day. I think Elgin said if you start in Georgia and you're not scared of traveling, you can watch 25 straight days of racing. And that could be tough on you. Just give everybody a kind of look inside what a driver. I remember talking to you at our shop, and you said by about day 3 you were popping Advil because your body was so beat up. So how long and how bad is that on you guys for the team?
It can go good and go bad. It all depends on, just if you get tore up, caught up in wrecks, and, just the extra work is just, I guess what I said, extra. We got plenty to do during the day to keep our cars maintained and our competition that we race with now is so tough. You can't be just a little off or decide not to do a little bit of the extra stuff to get the extra speed every day. So you work until the time you wake up to the time you go to bed and get up the next morning and start all over again. So and then it does help a little bit that the majority of the places are at the same place, so you don't have to travel time in between. But it's still rough and it still tires on you. But luckily they've broke it up a little bit. So if you're in the Lucas Series, once you get to Volusia, you don't have to run every night unless you just want to. But I think that's what we're going to do this year is maybe take a couple of nights off at Volusia and reset everything and get back going again, maybe for just a 10,000 to win shows.
JD talks about how it's nice because for, a good amount of nights, like East Bay, you're there for I think 5 or 6 straight nights, or with 6 straight nights is what we'll be there for. And that'll be able to be seen both live on MAV TV for the final 2 nights and all the other nights on Lucas Oil Racing TV. That'll be a lot of fun. James Essex and I will have the call. But I can guarantee you one thing, is that Scott Bloomquist will still probably be late at one stage or the other throughout these 6 nights at some point. The mystique of Scott Bloomquist is always so much fun, and I know you enjoy, competing with him, JD. But, I want to get back to Rumley, okay? We talked about this being the dream team last year. Now you don't have Kevin Rumley. You won the championship with him in 2015, but you still have Jason Durham. You still have Lance. Mark Martin, to some degree, is involved with the team. You have a lot of good guys, the Longhorn folks behind you as well. The one thing that I can say is, we call Rumley the mad scientist, and, of course, he's going over to the other side and working with Mike Marlar this year. But I think at least your transporter is going to be a little less messy because, with that mad scientist mentality, stuff is all over the place all the time.
Yeah, definitely. And if anybody knows me, I'm kind of a neat freak at a highest level. So, yeah, but no, it's all right. I got used to picking up after him, and he actually got a little better too. But no, like I said before, everything's good with me and Kevin. Everything ended on good terms, and he just didn't want to travel as much and be gone. And if you're going to race full time for to feed your family and pay your house payments, that's what you got to do. You got to be gone all the time. So I understand what he wanted to do, and he understand that I couldn't slow down. So everything's good.
JD, Golden Isles, East Bay Raceway Park, and then Bubba over there in Ocala to open up the Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series season. What's the most difficult for you to get a handle of?
I'm going to say Brunswick I love. If I could go out back and create my own racetrack and have everybody come here and race against me, I would make one just like Brunswick. I just love the way it's shaped. I love the way you have to drive the place. And I'm usually pretty decent there. Now, East Bay, I never did really like it, but I've learned how to get around it the past couple years. And then Bubba is just such an oddly shaped place that it puts it more in a driver's hands. And I really like the place. Sometimes it hasn't been the raciest of places, but it's definitely unique, and it puts a lot in the driver's hands. It kind of reminds me of a Toccoa, Georgia. It's a really odd shaped place. As long as you get your car that it'll turn a little bit, the driver can make up for the rest of it.
Hey, JD, you've dabbled around in the pavement racing a little bit, and I don't know how much you follow it, but there's a lot of talk about, the Snowball Derby. There's a lot of talk about, testing, practice, tires, and now we're having this new thing called controlled cautions, where it's not live pit stops and you don't come in anytime you want and try to get out and gain or lose positions. They'll have a controlled caution. Everybody will be able to come in pit, and you don't lose your spot. Being that you've been both pavement and dirt, I want to know what your thoughts are on some of that stuff and why, because I'm like a pavement racer converted to the dirt scene now over the past 8 years or so. Why do you think there is more hype around dirt than pavement right now?
I really don't know. I guess a lot of it's to do with some of your cup drivers, on social media, praising the dirt racing a little bit. And maybe that's part of it. I really don't know why. I think our sport's definitely growing. It's definitely exciting. I don't know. I guess it's just maybe something new that's now just getting in the mainstream media, and so everybody's liking it. I'm not really sure, but I've seen a few things on the deal for the Derby about the pit stops and things like that. And I actually went down there one time and raced, and I didn't run the Derby. I ran the Snowflake, and I didn't even know that I was supposed to have a pit crew or whatever. But we ended up making the race, and we hired a bunch of people that or a crew that didn't make the race, and so it was pretty neat, and it was pretty competitive during that deal. So I think it'll be better for the lower budget teams. Like I said, when I went down there, I didn't even know it was going to have pit stops. So I guess I didn't research it too well, but everybody is trying to make it more affordable in their own way, and then of course some people disagree with it, and some people don't. So there's not going to be one fix for everybody, but as long as everybody tries a little bit, we'll figure it out eventually.
He sounds like he could be a president someday, a politician there. Maybe someday, JD, that's in the cards in the future. One more thing before I let you go, and I want to know, obviously we're there with MAV TV. We're there with the Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series and Lucas Oil Racing TV, and we do all these races live and so forth. Now I think we got 26 or something like that this year. What do you think about the coverage? I've actually never asked you that. Honestly, I've seen you at so many other racetracks, and we talk about all different things and family and motorhomes and kids and that sort of stuff. But we don't talk about that. What are your thoughts on what that does? For dirt late model racing.
I think it's great, and the coverage is getting better and better. I know, like when MAP TV first started, the clarity on the TV wasn't that good, but then they've come back and they fixed all that, and everybody that I talk to just raves about it and watches it. I think somebody plays it once every Thursday night or something. Others, just a lot of people that didn't even know that it was that kind of mainstream professional racing. They thought it was just your backwoods dirt track stuff. Really get into it and really enjoy it.
Well, thank you so much, JD. First of all, I hope that you feel better by the time you get to Brunswick, because we want to pal around and have a good time with you down there at the Golden Isle Speedway.
Oh, yeah. Well, I definitely appreciate it. I feel better already just talking to you, Bob.
There you go. See, that's what I love about old Superman there.
I was hoping his answer was going to be, man, I love MAP TV, but that Bob Dillner guy just, man.
Listen, James Essex is the show. Okay, that's all I have to say. You know how he says, what does he say? Superman, Jonathan Davenport?
Yeah. My son calls him the Judge. Everybody has their nickname, and my son named James the Judge.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. Well, Jonathan, get well, and we'll see you down in Georgia in just a couple of days, bud.
All right, sounds good. Thank y'all.
Jonathan Davenport on the Online Racing School hotline this morning here on the Morning Bullring, and always nice talking to JD. Like he says, I thought it was interesting, his perspective. His wife Rachel asked him, hey, what'd you do as a kid? And all these pictures of him by race cars. You grew up like that. Yep. Your dad's Randy LaJoy. My dad was a figure eight racer. We went to the races all the time. That's just kind of the way it is when you're really into racing.
Absolutely. You're always around it. It's something that you I don't know. It's in your blood, honestly. I know it's a cliche thing to say, but you can't get away from it. It's something that you're always going to be attached to.
The Online Racing School, their big seminar coming up in Nashville, Tennessee, March 9th and 10th. That's just a little bit over a month away. You're going to want to go to OnlineRacingSchool.com and click on the Nashville Seminar tab to learn all about it. Cal Gale coming up a little bit later in the show to talk about what you are going to learn there at the Online Racing School Seminar. But coming up next, the man of the hour, so to speak, that really stirred things up. Tim Bryant from Five Flags Speedway will join us on the Morning Bullring to talk about controlled cautions during the Snowball Derby. That and a whole lot more with social media reaction coming up next.
The secret is it's quicker.
Chris Ferguson will take the chips home. He'll win it.
PFC Brakes. More championships than any other. From late models to modifieds on pavement and dirt. With at-track service like no other. Success means no compromises.
A fifth win of the year for Ty Majeski. He'll take it.
Lighter, stiffer, cooler, quicker. PFC Brakes. The secret is, it's quicker.
The Boars Compact Touring Series is a 4-cylinder front-wheel drive mess. And it's coming to a track near you. A dozen races in 3 different states in 2019 will keep the 4-cylinder fans buzzing with excitement. The famed Lucas Oil Raceway and other trips too.
Anderson, Shady Bowl, Toledo, Fairfield,
Winchester, plus it's Bristol, baby. Returns on May 31st.
Race Car Engineering is your single-source supplier for all your racing equipment. Dirt, asphalt, drag strip, street rod, or off-road. Their experts can keep you on the track and in the lead no matter what type of racing you do. Hundreds of brands, thousands of parts. Find them online at racecareng.com or call them toll-free at 800-882-7231 and make sure to ask for your free catalog. That's Race Car Engineering, 800-882-7231.
Welcome back to the morning Bullring. It is 8:23 in the morning, just 3 minutes behind schedule. That's pretty impressive.
We're doing good. We are doing good. I thought we were going to be way worse than that.
Yeah, we will by the end. I guarantee you, especially with our next person that we're going to have on the online racing school hotline. But a lot of discussion this morning about controlled cautions being announced for the Snowball Derby. That really came into light yesterday. David Stremme was talking about it in addition to the people we've already talked about. Dave Moody got into it. A lot of people talking about these control cautions and just explain, and Tim Bryant, in our discussion, honestly, and this discussion has been going on for a couple of years, and we'll talk to him in a minute. But this basically is, a situation where they will have a caution and everybody will be able to come down pit road. And like I spoke about with Jonathan Davenport, you will not lose your position on pit road. You'll be able to come down. They'll have a certain amount of time that you'll be able to do this. And again, none of the rules have been announced yet.
Right.
But you will not be able to lose your position on pit road. Now, one of the reasons why this came into light, besides social media and so forth, is because a lot of discussion about Ty Majeski for 2 straight years, losing, so to speak, the Snowball Derby. Now, who knows what would have happened on the racetrack had he kept his position? Something else could have happened, okay? But he lost, supposedly, the Snowball Derby, and I see the reasoning behind why people say that, okay? But you know the rules going in,
right?
Okay, he lost it because he lost a bunch of spots on pit road and had to come back from the back of the pack, so to speak. Harrison Burton had some difficulty this past year. There have been players that have had difficulty, and it hurt their chances to win the Snowball Derby. But I will say, and your brother brought up this point, if you want to win the Snowball Derby, and there is live pit stops, you know the rules, okay? And if you're not going to have a full-fledged, like hired gun pit crew, which I understand and I respect,
yep.
Okay, Ty Majeski, let's just be fair here. Ty Majeski had wide fives,
yep.
Okay, on that race car, and it takes more time to change a tire with a wide 5 than it does a 5-on-5 pattern. So because of that, that was a factor that your brother brought to light that a lot of people forget about.
And he barked back, and he had said, it costs money to switch over to the 5-on-5, which, yes, it does, but I don't buy the fact that he can't put 5-on-5s. I think maybe they were too stubborn to put 5-on-5s. I know there is a difference. They drive different. Wide 5s are a lot lighter. But in the Snowball Derby, it is won and lost on pit road. It has been, and this is going to change for this year.
I disagree. I disagree. Listen, it was not won or lost on pit road with Eric Jones and Kyle Busch. It was not won on pit road with John Hunter Nemechek and Christian Eckes. I don't go with that comment whatsoever.
I believe it is because Harrison Burton, he had known that. I think Harrison,
it's an element.
I think
I'll give you, it was an element. Go back to those 2 races that I said, Casey.
Yeah.
Okay. Go back to those 2. And this is your brother's comment there on Twitter about the wide 5 wheels. And that is a choice as well. Okay. There's a performance advantage to some respect with a wide 5. Everybody knows the rules. They can choose what they want. They can go with 5-on-5. They can go with wide 5. They can have a hired gun pit crew. They don't have to have a hired gun pit crew. I've done both. Okay. And honestly, the first time I did a hired pit crew, it hurt me.
Yep.
It hurt me. We would have done better ourselves because they sucked.
I will say, this year, the 2018 snowballed the 51st.
You're trying to backtrack now.
It was one. It was one on a pit stop. Kyle Busch Motorsports got their 2 cars out first, and Majeski was probably, where was he out of the pits, 5th or so? And he just ran out of time at the end. Majeski at the end had the best car. I think Harrison and Majeski had the 2 best cars. Harrison gambled because they knew they were going to lose on pit road anyway, so they stayed out hoping for a string of cautions or hoping for, honestly, for it to go green. And that's when the whole thing with Bubba, they all wrecked.
But that's another factor in the race.
Right.
Would Bubba been a factor? Could he have won the race? And he wouldn't have been complaining about hired gun pit crews and that sort of thing. Would Majeski have been able to get up there sooner had that wreck not happened? Listen, I understand the element. I don't go by the fact, and I'll say this for the record. Okay, it is not won or lost on pit road. It's an element of the race. Just like your on-track prowess and whether you bump somebody, whether you run them hard and burn up your tires, or whether you save your stuff for the end of the race. It's an element. It is not won or lost on pit road. But I respect your comment, though.
What if we asked Stephen Nasse if he lost that race on pit road?
Hey, listen.
I was going to say.
Stephen Nasse said, by the way, he said, "Thank you, Jesus," when Tim Bryant and everybody made that announcement at the Speedfest event this past weekend.
And my only thing to chime in, I agree with you, Bob, in the fact that it's not going to be won in pit road, but I do think it can be lost.
Correct. I will go with that. Absolutely. Yeah. And Harrison Burton, you got to remember, he adjusted his pit strategy. He didn't technically win or lose it on pit road. He adjusted. Chris Wimmer was smart enough on the pit box to take a gamble because he knew he wasn't going to be able to be up to par with, say, some of those other crews. So they adjusted their pit strategy to try to win the Derby. And if that caution had not come out, Harrison Burton might have been the winner of the 2018 Snowball Derby. Okay? That's what I love. I love the elements of what he got there.
Brandon Paul.
Yeah.
Lap 103, the 18 and the 51 entered pit road 3rd and 4th, exited 1st and 2nd.
So that's one spot, though.
Yeah, and it's not won or lost. It's an element of the game.
Like you said, you guys gained how many spots on your brother's team?
Here's what I'm saying.
You shot yourself in the foot on that one,
Here's what I'm
Casey.
saying. I'm not saying that I don't like I like the live pit stops, but what I'm saying is you don't need to hire $5,000 pit crews.
Exactly.
The only thing with my brother is he has a lot of friends, and Ryan Flores, front changer, was the front changer for Corey. He was also the front changer on the 51 car. They had a lot of Penske guys.
Were you the one that hands him the drink in the window?
The 51.
To carry tires.
The 51 Rafael Assard had, I don't know about a full team, but they did have some Penske Cup guys on that car.
Yeah.
That was not a KBM truck.
And this is a great point. Before we get to Tim Bryant, he's standing by on the online racing school hotline, listening to all of this. Okay,
he's chomping at the bid to.
Yeah, I'm sure he is. But I think that's a great point. Here, and Tim knows that I've been a big proponent of the live pit stops because I've always said that the Snowball Derby was the last pure late model race in the country with no gimmicks whatsoever. Okay. And I understand this business decision, but I love the live pit stop aspect. Now, everybody is saying this, and this decision for some respects was made out of the amount that it costs to, get a pit crew for the Snowball Derby. We've heard $3,500. Casey's heard as much as $7,500. I've heard in the $5,000 and $6,000 realm. Okay. Listen, I just told you that, and everybody listening, I used to own a super late model. Okay. I competed in the Snowball Derby a few times. Best finish was 4th with Bobby Gill, and that was like a victory for us. Okay. But consider this. First time I hired a pit crew. They sucked. Okay. And we lost spots. Okay. And the next time that we went back, we did it again, and they were okay. Well, the last 2 times we ran the Snowball Derby, one time we had Bon Suss as our crew chief, and Bon was in the NASCAR ranks, and he went to us, and then Kyle Busch actually negotiated with him right in front of me at the Snowball Derby one time. Hey, when are you going to come work for us? I'm like, guys, I'm right here.
That's one of my favorite stories.
So he went over to KBM. But Bon Sus had us practice in our shop. And Bob Dillner's team was not a high-dollar team, okay? We begged, borrowed, and stole, basically, to get to the racetrack. And we turned in stops down there that were better than a lot of those hired gun pit crews. Put the darn effort in, okay, and your pit stops will be okay. My problem is, and it's too hard for Tim Bryant and Ricky Brooks and everybody to police this, but I would love to actually, to some degree, I would have loved to have had the live pit stop still in there and hired somebody. I'd almost pay the money myself to have somebody and say, if you have been paid to do a pit stop in the big three of NASCAR, guess what? You are not going to be changing tires or doing a pit stop in the Snowball Derby. Now, that takes a lot of effort. You can't police it. Absolutely.
I mean, Ryan Flores said something when we were down there changing for my brother. I was carrying tires. I'd never carried tires before in my life. I was always, whenever we were doing K&N, I always had the gun because it was the easiest. So I was carrying tires, and Flores is like, look, smooth is fast. Slow is smooth, and smooth is fast. So you have all these Cup guys that are here, and every single day they hit the same 5 lugs, and the droop on the hub is the same. The jack bolt's in the same spot every single time. Everything is controlled on a Cup car. Super late model, everything goes out the window. So they're going to be trying to rush it, and they're going to suck. He's like, look, slow is smooth, and smooth is fast. That's the motto they go by. So that's what we did, and we were pitted right behind John Hunter Nemechek. This was the year he ended up catching on fire on pit road, and that was a big deal. We were right there.
Oh, yeah.
But they had a full Hendrick Cup team. I think it was 48 team, and we beat them off pit road every single time. We gained 5 spots every time.
It can be done. Listen, I was a jackman, and we were still faster than some of those hired gun pit crews. So I don't know.
How does the tallest guy become the jackman? That's
the leverage. Honestly,
does it
that's
work
really.
better?
Now listen,
I guess tire changer would be even worse.
When a car came down pit road and was about 2 inches from my knee, it cost us a half a second on the pit stop,
and a couple changes of clothes.
Yes, absolutely. Tell you what, let's go to the Online Racing School hotline right now to get Tim Bryant on with us. He's been listening to this conversation, and Tim and I are very close in discussing things in short track racing and Snowball Derby at Five Flags Speedway. Love and respect his entire family. Hi to Pat if you're listening this morning as well. But Tim, obviously you've been hearing our conversation. You've seen this stuff on social media and so forth. I think the best thing, Tim, is first of all, good morning.
Good morning, guys.
This is a very hot, topic this morning, and I want you to give you the opportunity to discuss why this decision was made.
Well, let me start by saying this was certainly a tough decision, and it's been a kind of a work in progress. I mean, it wasn't a spur of the moment decision by any means, and I tell you, it was tough from the aspect is it's a call we didn't want to make. I'm right with Kyle Busch. It's the freaking Snowball Derby, man. And, from that standpoint, we probably held out longer than a lot of people, wished that we would have. But look, I mean, gosh, it's the cost of a pit crew was never intended for this kind of racing. If we could have figured out a way to have implemented, the Team 51 with Bon Sus training the guys during the week plan, that's what we would have really liked to do. By the way, my friend Frank Bolter, who's one of the smartest minds in racing, was working on a plan for us to do that and to keep any previous NASCAR over the wall guys from being eligible. And wow, we just didn't find a way that or haven't found a way to this point. Let me put it that way. To make sure we could police that 100%. So and again, we don't want I think all of you guys are right in that there have been a couple of Snowball Derbies won on pit road. I don't know about last year's. Honestly, I didn't even know the statistics about the KBM cars coming out 1-2 on every pit stop last year. I had no idea. And by the way, this certainly wasn't targeted at KBM. We appreciate those guys coming to race because they raised the bar for their on track performance. But we don't want to race one on pit road. Frankly, we want to race one on the racetrack. And probably be easy for us to call this the Ty Majeski rule, because certainly he probably could have a couple of snowball derby Tom Dawson trophies in his trophy case. Certainly one of them, if it hadn't have been for trouble on pit road. But this may or may not be a fix for that. But what we do know is this: we've got a lot of guys that have reached out to us for the last few years and say, "Man, I want to come, but I got a good race car, a good race team, but I don't do live pit stops, and I'm going to have to hire a crew, and that just shoots my budget over the top."
So, Tim, I think the Ty Majeski thing is very critical in discussing this, and I would just tell you, Tim and I, just like he discusses with a lot of people, we've discussed this element for, I think, now 3 years. Tim, is what we've discussed it for. And I remember the morning after, Monday, and you came to me at Five Flags. He goes, "We're really thinking about it. What do you think? What are your thoughts?" And just to get everybody's opinions and so forth. And I know you talked to Kyle Busch about it too. He told me yesterday that you talked to him about it. So Tim's a guy that goes out there and gets a lot of different opinions from people before making the decisions. And I respect that out of what he does and how he does his business. But I think, I want to know, was the Ty Majeski thing the catalyst? Was the Stephen Nasse thing and how that blew up this year, was that the catalyst? Or was, as some people are pointing to, a car count situation? What was the biggest catalyst, or is it a combination of, say, all three?
I think it was a combination of all three and maybe a few other elements as well. First off, I've got to where I almost can't watch pit stops. I'm a race fan at the end of the day, and I love the live pit stops, and some of our fans do, a lot of our fans do, and from that standpoint, we really was hesitant about this decision. But I will tell you this: our pit road at Five Flags Speedway is not really conducive to live pit stops in a 36 car field. Our pit stalls are 20 feet wide. It's not super wide, especially on the entrance. And from a safety standpoint, we were always nervous about the live pit stops. There was just no room for error down there. And fortunately, in the past, we haven't had any bad situations. We had the John Hunter Nemechek at the end of the race a few years ago, where he come in and actually ran into his pit box because he had lost his brakes, and there always, I guess, is the element of chance for accidents. But so that was another thing that kind of went into the decision. But at the end of the day, it's all about saving teams money where we can, and certainly this discussion could go on to other areas and other areas that we're looking at. But I will say this: knowing last year that there were a few teams that paid what I consider a lot of money for pit crews and didn't get anything out of them, and I'm not pointing out Nasse's crew specifically, or Harrison Burton's crew or whatever, but it just seemed like wasted money at the end of the day.
Look, I just want to say, everybody's sitting at home that is saying, "Oh, they shouldn't have done that. He should. How could they do this?" Look, you have to admire Tim Bryant. He's listening, and he's trying to make things better, and he's trying to make it more cost efficient. So at the end of the day, a lot of promoters and a lot of track owners would just sit back and let it run itself into the ground when there's a problem. And Tim is a guy who's going to step up and try to make a change. Whether you like it or not, he's going to try to make a change and try to make it better. And you have to at least admire that. And if you don't like it, then give your opinion, because it probably could go a long way, especially with
just use the hashtag Morning Bullring.
Just use the hashtag. That's right. But
well, guys, let me say this. I want to give a lot of credit to Greg McCarnes. He's the one that came up with this controlled caution idea several years ago, and it's been implemented at some big races throughout the country. And we've been watching those and studying how it's affected the races and what have you. The format has actually been tweaked numerous times, and at some point, I think if cumulatively we can all land on the exact same format for the controlled cautions, people will understand them a little better, and it'll be a little more acceptable. We haven't really announced the format for this year's race in terms of number of laps and counting cautions while the cars are in the pits, and then adding those laps back, or just stopping the lap count, which is probably what our plan will be, for that event. But again, this it's been a tried and tested and successful format. We think that it will be, and even the Winchester 400, R.J. Scott told me, he says, when we went to the controlled cautions, he says it didn't seem like it affected the race in any way. So that's certainly what we're hoping for the 50-second snowball.
Yeah, definitely. And I will say that I don't think it will affect the racing. I really don't. I think the live pit stop element, and Tim talked to you about the other side of that, with pit road being tight and so forth. But listen, on Kyle Busch's remarks yesterday, a lot of people are like, I love live pit stops. And Tim's talked about that. We've talked about that in his office many times. Live pit stops are an element. People will still be able to see pit stops. It's just that people won't be able to lose positions on pit road. But Tim, and I know this is discussion. There's nothing set in stone whatsoever, and you've been, very profound in saying that, and especially with our story that broke on Saturday, as well as the announcement at Speedfest. The ideas between the controlled cautions. Do you think you said probably the lap count will freeze. Do you think it'll be a certain amount of laps it will freeze for, or how do you look into that, and what are the things that you need to discuss to make those decisions?
Well, absolutely. We'll give the racers, as has been, protocol before, a certain number of laps to make their tire changes, take on fuel, maybe have time for an adjustment. But it's not going to be like a break. The pace car will go around the track a couple of times, and they'll have that amount of time to get back out to maintain their position. And if they don't, the lap count will begin, and then they could start losing laps. I still think you'll see a flurry of activity on pit road. One of the nice things about this, it's going to be, typically on a race like the Snowball with live pit stops, you either hit your setup or you didn't. And so from that standpoint, other than taking on new tires, you're kind of stuck with what you got. You might throw a spring rubber in or something like that. But with this setup, you have a little longer on pit road to possibly make some adjustments on some cars. So if a guy, don't have the premium setup for that particular day and those particular track conditions, he can tweak it. He can get it better. So I believe the possibility looms that you'll see guys that may not necessarily be at the front at the beginning of the race, but can work their way towards the front. And I think you might even see more contenders throughout the day.
And Tim, I don't know if you've gotten this far into what you're going to do yet, but we saw this weekend at CRA Speedfest, Bubba Pollard tried coming in and shaking everything up and taking his tires before everybody else did, getting all four of his, because you could only take two at one time. You had to everybody pretty much took their lefts and then took their rights. But Bubba Pollard came down pit road when it was not a controlled caution and tried to put tires on. The CRA officials made him take them back off, and then he lost track position. And I don't think they paid attention in the drivers' meeting very much. But so I honestly didn't hear all of it. They had to go, I think it was maybe 50 laps or as close to 50 before they called it a controlled caution. Are you looking at that same style format, or will you try to make every caution a controlled caution?
No, we won't. We definitely won't make every caution a controlled caution. It would just simply lengthen the race, too much time-wise. So, we'll probably have the first controlled caution, after a designated lap, be it 35 or 50 or wherever, and then periodically we'll get into the next zone, if you would, where the next caution will be a controlled caution. And what we will do is make sure that there's enough cautions so that a guy will be able to take on the amount of tires that he has in his pit. And, so at the end of the day, he'll have gotten everything he did during a live pit stop race. And by the way, if a quickie yellow comes out, that's not a controlled caution, a guy can still go down pit road. He can go down pit road. He can make adjustments on his car. He just simply loses track position. The lap count will continue. So he's got to get in and out, before the pace car comes around to keep his lap. But he'll give up track position. And so we'll still see some of that. I feel certain he will not be able to take on tires during those stops.
Tim, this is my last question about this whole thing, and so much talk about that car count thing. Do you think that this decision, the proof to it being successful, will it be the fact that you could have a higher car count? If there is a higher car count, is this decision a successful one?
You know, we don't pay attention, honestly, Bob, to car count, maybe like some do. You know, this year our car count was a little lower. I mean, I think we're at around 52 cars, and we've been in the 60s before. You know, I think that in terms of car count, you know, we had enough. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that didn't factor into this decision as much as just making it a little easier on the guys that choose to come. Now, I do know for a fact there are several guys, and I'll mention Danny Fredrickson, who's been wanting to come to the Snowball, just didn't want to hire a pit crew, and he told me over the weekend that his entry would be in the mail on Monday morning. So we think we'll see a little bit of that. So, you know, will it have an effect on it drastically? I don't think so, but it might slightly.
And that's the point that I wanted to make, honestly. And I wanted to hear not from my mouth, but from Tim's mouth, because I personally, I didn't like the comments that I saw on social about the car count, because I thought it was a bunch of hogwash during the Snowball Derby week. Because, again, it was top 5 car count in the nation for late model racing in 2018. And just because it was, you know, down maybe 8, 10 cars or whatever, whoopee, you still had, look at that field. There were 52 strong. I've seen on Twitter 49. No, Bob, it's 49. No, we lost a couple cars. Okay, right. So you got to consider that. But that still was the most fantastic field of every super late model race in America in 2018. And I believe that no matter what rule, it would continue. This might have the opportunity, like Tim said, for Danny Fredrickson and Alex Prunty. I saw him talk about it. Alex Prunty, this is your opportunity to come down to the Snowball Derby. I saw you on social media talk about this. And listen, if you like it, now come on down and compete, because now you don't have to supposedly have a hired pit crew. But, Tim, I also want to talk to you about, because you have a lot of other stuff going on. Before we let you go, obviously this was the hot topic this morning, but so much happening at Five Flags Speedway this year. Of course, you have the Blizzard Series races. You have the Alan Turner Pro Late Model races. You have all your local divisions, which are very, very strong. We love watching on speed51.com. And I'll let the cat out of the bag here. The Blizzard Series races, again, for the second straight year, tape delayed in nature on MAV TV with Speed 51 Short Track America. That will be a lot of fun to watch all of those races. MAV TV, the folks out there, they love watching the pavement late model racing from all over the country, specifically at Five Flags Speedway. But I look to March 9th as well, Tim, with that ARCA Racing Series event. The first time ARCA coming back to Five Flags Speedway. For the first time in more than 20 years, there will be live pit stops for that particular race. And listen, you know, they have a smaller field. They don't have the field for 36 cars. Okay. Their field is usually around, I believe it's 26 or 28, whatever it may be in that range there. So you will be able to see those live pit stops, but so much shaken down at Five Flags Speedway. And I know you're excited about that ARCA race.
Yeah, we are excited. In fact, we're installing an extra scoring loop in our pit road, and we're putting timing lines across pit road so that they can monitor pit road speed. The ARCA Racing Series has just produced some great racing in the last few years. I had mentioned in the announcement at Kansas, the ultimate decision for us to do this is something that's been on the table for probably the better part of 3 years now. But at Nashville last year, when we were there with the Southern Super Series and Cars Tour and CRA as a support race for the ARCA Racing Series event at the fairgrounds, we stayed after our event was over with and watched that race. It was some of the best what I call big car racing I'd ever seen on a short track. And I said, man, you know, I just think this would be good racing at Five Flags. And we were able to hook up with our friend Bob Sargent, who has a ton of experience promoting ARCA events. And, we're really looking forward. We're working hard trying to get everything together. And by the way, we're going to toss that out there. Hey, if you want to see live pit stops, come see the ARCA Racing Series event on March 9th at Five Flags.
Yeah, you can buy those tickets right now. Actually, if you click on the link on speed51.com for the ARCA event, it goes right to the where you can purchase those tickets. So, Tim, we appreciate you coming on, and I know there's a lot of discussion. It's both, positive, and there's some naysayers out there, but I think no matter what decision you make in America these days, there's always going to be that.
Well, you know what, guys, I appreciate the platform for kind of stating our case. I think it's all good conversation. And, at the end of the day, we know these decisions that we make. And by the way, there's some more that are coming. There's a lot of things to fix in racing, and we got into that a little bit, down at Cordell this weekend. And, that'll be ongoing discussion. But when we make decisions, it's never popular across the board. But I think there's some really smart people in racing that are kind of spearheading the drive, and including racers like Bubba Pollard who are stating their case, and guys like Donnie Wilson who are always looking for opinions from other guys. And we take all of that stuff into consideration. And then with the other series operators and other track operators, we put it together, and we try to come up with the best finished product possible. But it's always a work in progress, and we'll never stop working.
Well, Tim Bryant on the line from Five Flags Speedway, promoter of the Snowball Derby. Say hello to Pat, Steve, Faye, Randy, everybody down there at Five Flags Speedway for us.
All right, guys. Thanks for enjoying your show.
You got it. Thank you so much. A lot of discussion right there. And unfortunately, I don't think that'll be the end of it.
No, we're going to keep going.
Use the hashtag Morning Bullring and let us know what you think. There's a poll on Speed 51. You can listen to all of that. But right now, because we forgot at the top of the hour, and so we're going to delay a debut of another member of our Bullring team, but we got to get to the news. Okay, so let's go to Zach Evans with the news this morning.
Good morning, Bob. Good morning, Casey. Casey, loving the hoodie.
Thank you.
Of course.
I know
Tar Heels.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's go to the news. Of course, talked a lot about Speedfest already this morning. Let's talk about it some more. We've got, we had the great racing, the breakout victory by Conor O'Kresick, the drivers' meeting, the Five Flags announcement. Which
hold on, Zach. Before you could toot your own horn, I'll toot it for you. Zach was the only one in the staff picks that picked Conor O'Kresick.
I actually wasn't going to bring it up, but I appreciate you.
I figured you were going
to polishing that off.
You were
going
to toot your own horn.
I was going to try to be a team player here, but yes, I did pick Conor O'Kresick to win the Speedfest 200. An interesting story from that we haven't even really discussed was Casey Roderick's wild day. He wins the pro late model race, and then he has the little shouting match with Stephen Assey afterwards.
We'll talk about that.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
I got an opinion on that one too.
Oh, excellent. Out west, we had the Chili Willy 150 at Tucson Speedway. Michael Scott picking up the win.
Nobody picked him on our staff.
Nobody picked him.
I wouldn't think a guy from The Office would be able to win a race.
I didn't realize how many, I should have guessed how many Speed 51 fans are huge Office fans, because once that race ended, our Twitter mentions were just Michael Scott gifs.
And I still haven't gotten the reference. So apparently I have to watch The Office.
Yes, you need to watch all 5 seasons or whatever it was, 7 or something like that.
And of note from that, Michael Scott winning in a new 5-star Gen 6 body.
Woohoo!
National 100 on the dirt at East Alabama Motor Speedway. We had Jason Hyatt picking up the win there, took the lead on lap 3, led the remaining 48 laps for the victory. That race was supposed to be last November. Like so many races last fall, moved to 2019 because of
All-American
weather.
400?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
So
Alabama 200?
Yeah, there were a couple. That was another one of them, but they got it in this weekend. Jason Hyatt picking up the win.
Zach, we appreciate you coming on the Morning Bullring. Always nice to have our national correspondent, Zach Evans, a new core member of Speed51.com this year. Awesome to have him with us. Mamba will be with us a little later on to deliver some more news. And by the way, before we go to break here, because that's what we're doing next, and then we're going to have Cal Gale on our program, and then we got Kenny Wallace coming up. Kenny Wallace, the Herminator, coming up to talk a little dirt modified racing, get his take on the Snowball Derby change with the controlled cautions and a whole lot more. But Buddy Short Track, Buddy actually tweeted me personally this morning, and he said he's listening, and he wants me to know that forms and voices are great, but when NASCAR ascended to its peak, it was because it was a benevolent dictatorship. Hard to say this early in the morning, 8:56 in the morning. I guess it's not early anymore. Bill France Sr. and Jr. listened, but ultimately made the decision that the sport needs. Buddy, you are a smart man, because honestly, I think people are to some degree too nice these days. I've talked to my wife, Angie, and I've always said, and listen, I'm saying this here, and a lot of people will go, whoa, but I think some of the demise of NASCAR can be rescued, and it's still a great product, but some of the demise of NASCAR was when that dictatorship to some degree, I agree with you, it was lost once Bill Sr. and Bill Jr., went away from making all the calls. And I believe NASCAR has suffered because of that. So I think they were great ambassadors and listeners. They listened to everybody's opinion. But you know what? They ruled with an iron fist. And sometimes you need that. And I think to some degree, short track racing needs that as well. Very good point, buddy. We appreciate that here on the Morning Bullring. We'll be right back.
Lucas Oil Modified Series continues to be one of the most competitive race series found anywhere. A challenging 10-race championship will put every driver to the test. Which first-time winners and podium threats will make the jump from weekly challengers to championship contenders? The Lucas Oil Modified Series. Tuesday, 3 p.m. Eastern. Only on MAV TV, Motorsports Network.
The secret is, it's quicker.
Chris Ferguson will take the chips home. He'll win it.
PFC Brakes. More championships than any other. From late models to modifieds, on pavement and dirt, with at-track service like no other. Success means no compromises.
A fifth win of the year for Ty Majeski. He'll take it.
Lighter, stiffer, cooler, quicker. PFC Brakes. The secret is, it's quicker.
Get ready for the 2019 live broadcasts of the Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series. The series kicks off with the Super Bowl of racing from the Golden Isle Speedway in Brunswick, Georgia, Friday, February 1st and Saturday, February 2nd. The live racing action continues the following weekend with the 43rd Annual Winter Nationals from East Bay Raceway Park in Tampa, Florida. Friday, February 8th and Saturday, February 9th. Live on MAV TV.
Welcome back to the Morning Bullring. It's not early anymore. It's 9 o'clock. People are going to work, driving to work. This show is short track discussion. That's what it's all about. It's raw. It's not polished. Folks, we got a lot coming up on the Speed 51 network here today, including highlights from pro late models and super late models at Speedfest and a whole lot more you will want to check out. Speed 51 and its video network for premium subscribers only. You can complain all you want, but for $9.99 a month, man, that's like going out to lunch.
Yes.
Once during a week. And for the amount, the thousands of videos, the interviews, the highlights, the feature pieces, you name it, the amount that you get on there, we think it's a pretty affordable price. And if you don't belong. But hopefully you come on and embrace, certainly the delivering of all the information that we have on the Speed 51 network.
And I will say the recap from CRA Speedfest is up. And
Your sunburn.
It's got a beautiful man on it.
Yeah.
I did get – no, I'm not bad.
Not bad.
After day one, I was as red as these lights, and I think it was a mixture of windburn and sunburn, and then I invested in this thing called sunscreen.
By the way,
helped.
Tar
Heels.
There you go. All right, Casey LaJoy with
What was that?
Listen, if you're a Carolina Blue fan, yes.
I thought it was Duke Blue Devils down here.
No, you're kicked off the show for the remainder of the show.
Nope.
Oh my gosh!
That's
of
right.
course,
Mama can take over for me.
Yeah, the morning Bullring presented by the Online
Here,
Racing
real
School
quick,
Seminar.
Check out that forehead.
And there is
No, the nose is the worst part.
Yeah. Well, you have like me. I will admit, before I went on the air today, and before I go on the air, I do powder my nose. Okay?
I don't.
Something you learned about, and you probably need, by looking at this picture, you need to powder your nose just a little bit.
And not only that, we were doing that in the grandstands as the pro truck race was going on, and I had about like 15 fans looking at me.
That was Connor O'Kresick winning.
Okay, that was. I thought this was the one after.
Look at him, he pumped up.
Yeah, I thought this was the one after qualifying was worse. I thought that was that one. I looked way red.
Yeah, that was pretty bad. But anyway, we appreciate you working hard and digging. You did a good job down there on the video stream, and that race too. Big announcement here, will actually be seen as part of Speed 51's Short Track America on MAV TV in the coming months. So we're letting everything out of the bag here. Adam Mackey said it on the broadcast. He and Andrew Hain did a great job on the live stream the other day. Mark Killer and all the staff as well at speed51.com. Do we have Cal Gal on the line?
We do.
We do. Good, because we want to talk a little Online Racing School Seminar. Cal, good morning here on the Morning Bullring.
Hey guys, how you doing?
I am doing good. I always love listening to Cal because it's just like so warm because he's got that southern accent and so forth. And Cal, you always sound friendly.
Yeah, we try to be. It was cold down there at Cordell this weekend, though. I know that.
So were you bundled up?
I'm windburned too.
Oh yeah, it's no joke, man. It was windy.
Oh, what did you think of that race down there?
I thought the racing was really good. I thought Connor O'Kresick did an outstanding job. Really, really breakout race for him, obviously. Holding off Kyle Busch on, 2 restarts, and especially that last one with 6 to go or whatever it was he drove a great race. He had a great car up under him. Mike Garvey's one of the best there is when it comes to short track cars, and they had a great car, and the boy did what he did to win the race, and he did outstanding.
And we're speaking to Cal Gal, who is with the Gal Force Machine, the Online Racing School. He's won a NASCAR Camping World Truck Series race. Former front row starter or pole sitter. I can't remember for the Snowball Derby, Cal.
We've been fortunate enough to set on the pole for the Derby 2 times.
There you go.
2 times.
There you go. See, you've been gone from there for a couple of years, so I forgot about you, buddy.
Yeah. I've been gone a little bit. Yep. I handed the reins over to Dad this past year. He ran the truck race. So we want to come back down there and run a little bit. We started, since we moved up here, we dabbled into the tour type modified stuff a little more, and haven't run the super quite as much as we'd like to, but hopefully one day we'll be back. Obviously that's my home turf, and if there's a race on my bucket list, that's one to get.
So with this new rule of controlled cautions at the Snowball Derby, would it persuade you more to go compete, or what do you think about the rule?
I mean, I think there's debates from both sides of that. I definitely feel like your common guy, it might. I think the promoter, Tim and those guys are looking at, probably a slight drop in car count here the last few years, and looking at to cut cost and things like that. So, yeah, I mean, it's something to consider. I think you might see some more cars come down there to try to attempt it this year with this rule change.
It'll be interesting for sure.
Where do you stand on the whole matter?
I think that it's tough. I've obviously run the race enough to where we've rented crews. We've tried to do it ourselves. I will say this much: I've had fast cars down there, but I haven't really been there at the end to say it's come down to the money stop for me. So I'd say that part of the argument is probably out for me. But I feel like some other guys probably will argue with the fact that it's tough, but the guys that can spend the time, that are prepared to practice and have good guys to do it. And, it's one thing to rent a crew. I'll say this much. You rent a crew from a truck or from a Xfinity deal or something like that. A late model car is still different. It's a lot lighter car. When they jack it up, you still need to practice on that type of car. And the guys that can spend that time and prepare for that, and, they got their stud links right. Everything is correct. They got you know, there's a lot more that goes into it than just the people, you know, good equipment, good jacks, good pit guns. There's a lot more that goes into it than just the crews that are actually changing the tires.
Before we talk, I got to unmute myself here. Before we talk about the seminar, what is the online racing school all about, Cale?
Basically, Bob Bowles and my dad came together a couple years ago. Bob has wrote for Circle Track magazine for many years, and Dad is obviously with the Gale Force machine and his years of racing and background. They thought it would be neat for somebody to come online and be able to read a lot of important literature about race car suspension, anything about the race car. There's a great aerodynamic part on there. About, you know, just furthering their knowledge. Obviously, we've seen technology change in the past 10 years in racing tremendously, from a suspension standpoint, and learning, you know, from the NASCAR world has just trickled right down to the short track world. And not all of it has come from the NASCAR world. A lot of it is just the way racing works, evolution, you know, and, learning to trade off what you gain, you know, aerodynamically versus mechanically, and trying to find those trends, and learning your car and dynamic suspension movement. There's a lot of great information, and you can do it relatively cheap versus, you know, a kid that can't necessarily afford going to a NASCAR Technical Institute or something like that, where some of these, there's a lot of good text in there. It's not all visual, and it's a lot of good wording in there, as far as, and a lot of keywords in there that is worth investing in.
Now, you got the seminar in Nashville, and I want to know, where did you guys decide to kind of come up with this? Where did this all start from? Did you like, oh, we just want to go hold this seminar and teach people? Where did this all come about?
You know, I feel like probably for us, our trends are, what we noticed was actually at like PRI show and stuff. We do seminars every year for our product, and we would have standing room only at PRI every year in our seminars for you know, Gale Force stuff, and explaining, you know, why would you need the machine. And we just felt like there was a niche for expanding some of that and holding some of these seminars. We're pairing up with Willie Allen in Nashville. He's got a great following in that area, and we've never been that way. It's not necessarily a seminar that's is attracting the national attention, but it's one of those deals where anybody can come to it. There's very, very great knowledge from any part of it, but it's for the local racer. It's for everybody. It's for a street stock guy. It's for a legend car guy. A lot of great knowledge for anybody in there, and including late models, modifieds. It doesn't really matter. It's a lot of basic racing knowledge with a lot of detailed racing knowledge too in a couple days.
Well, Gale, we appreciate you coming on the morning Bullring, and hope to see you at a racetrack this year in addition to the seminars.
We will be there. Appreciate for everything you guys do. You do a great job.
Thank you very much. Cale Gale, the Online Racing School Seminar, March 9th and 10th, Nashville, Tennessee. Willie Allen with War Shocks will be there as well. Go to OnlineRacingSchool.com and click on the Nashville Seminar tab. They'll also have a seminar in Wisconsin coming up. A lot going on with the Online Racing School. We got the Herminator, Kenny Wallace, coming up next here on the Morning Bullring.
Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series. The series kicks off with the Super Bowl of racing from the Golden Isle Speedway in Brunswick, Georgia, Friday, February 1st and Saturday, February 2nd. The live racing action continues the following weekend with the 43rd Annual Winter Nationals from East Bay Raceway Park in Tampa, Florida, Friday, February 8th and Saturday, February 9th, live on MAV TV.
Race fans, download the new Speed51.com app today. Breaking news, Feature stories, the Unfiltered podcast, live race coverage, schedules, and more right at your fingertips. Download it today on iTunes and the Google Play Store.
The most prestigious race of the year, the $150,000 Winter Showdown at Kern County Raceway. 2 big days of racing, February 1st and 2nd. The nation's best super late model drivers vying for over $150,000 in prize money. 5150 Energy Drink opening night, February 1st. Showdown qualifying, modifieds, and the Motor City Superstock Showdown. February 2nd, it's the modifieds, followed by the 300-lap Spears Manufacturing Winter Showdown. Tickets at KernRaceway.com. The 5th annual Winter Showdown, February 1st and 2nd at Kern County Raceway.
9:11 in the morning on the Morning Bullring. I'm Bob Dillner. Casey LaJoy alongside of me will be with you free every single Monday morning to talk about short track racing because we all have a passion for it at speed51.com. And the man that is on the online racing school hotline right now has a great passion for short track racing as well. Kenny Wallace, welcome to the Morning Bullring, buddy.
Bob, I'm happy to be on your show. Yeah, I'm in a very cold St. Louis, Missouri right now.
How much snow on the ground? I think I saw you like with you did a video with scrap metal and so forth in the back of the pickup truck, and I saw a bunch of snow on the ground.
Yeah, we've had a crazy winter. We go all the way back to middle of November, like November 14th. We got like 6 inches, and we thought this is crazy. And then it warmed up to like 60 degrees for a month. And then about 2 weeks ago, we got about 8 inches, and now tomorrow they're talking like the high of 9 degrees. So I'm ready to head to Daytona Beach for Speed Weeks down there.
Yeah. Me and Kel are complaining about like mid 40s and a little windy, and you're sitting in 9-degree weather.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, Kenny, I got a question for you because you and me, we worked together. I interviewed you a bunch as a successful NASCAR driver, and then we worked together at Fox and Speed for a long time. But I want to know, you retired from the TV gig. Okay.
Yep.
So
Yep.
You're going down to Daytona area. You just said Daytona. Are you going to wake up one morning and just start driving to Daytona instead of just, oh, wait a second, I'm not supposed to go there anymore?
This is absolutely a great question and almost a therapy session. I'm telling you, Bob, with so much happiness, I told my wife, I said, man, going to Speed Weeks this year is going to be absolutely awesome. Bob, for my whole life, and listen, I'm not complaining. I had a wonderful, wonderful career, but for my whole life that I went to Daytona, I went with a bundle of nerves, either trying to make the Daytona 500 or, worried what I was going to say on TV when I would get on air. So focused. But this year will be my first time going to Daytona as just a true racer, controlling my own destiny, driving my own truck and trailer down there. This is truly something I'm very, very excited about. So, yeah, you're right. It's going to be a different feel, but one that I am so excited about, so happy.
And you're a grandpa now, like 10 times over. How has that been? How has that been being a grandpa now?
I have to tell you, wonderful. I didn't know if I would be embarrassed about growing old, because I always watched everybody tease Kenny Schrader, hey, old man, or, Tony at Tony Stewart's shop, Tony Gibson, everybody always called him old man, hey, old man. But I got to tell you, it's wonderful to grow old. I'm thrilled to death to be 55 years old. It just seems like all the drama is over, and these grandbabies, they are the love of my life. As hyper as I am, I literally stopped doing what I'm doing, and I love them. It's wonderful.
How many times are you a grandpa now?
4. Yeah, 4. My oldest daughter, Brooke, has Charlotte. We call her Charlotte. And then Brandy, my middle one, she has Jet. And then now Brooke has a baby called Mila. And then the other one is Jade. So Brittany still lives in Charlotte. She's going to get married on New Year's night, 2019, and she doesn't have any babies yet.
Not yet, for sure. Hey, by the way, what do they call you? Grandpa? Do they call you Peepaw? What?
Poppy. Yeah, I named myself. I don't. It just. I didn't even think about a name. It just came out. I mean, what's really cool, Bob, is that I'm in the race shop every day, right? And little Jet, boy, he's all boy, and he loves racing. And he comes in, and we got the truck and trailer inside during these cold temperatures. We have like this history every day now. He gets up in the truck, wants to blow the horn. He gets on the four-wheeler, he gets in the race car, and then he gets in the hauler and likes to spin the tie downs that, tie the race car down. So he's definitely becoming the love of my life.
That's awesome. Yeah. I know Brittany's been a longtime friend of mine, so I think she's going to hold off on the grandbabies a little bit, I think.
Oh, yeah, well.
I love you, buddy. You're part of my life too. I mean, hey, you truly are. I mean, my house was not a fraternity house down there. Everybody knows where I lived in Concord, North Carolina for 26 years. And, Bob, I got to tell you, when I would come home from, say, a Bristol race or Martinsville, I'd roll up in my driveway around 6 or 7 in the summer, and there would be like 20 cars in my driveway, and it would be full of all these young kids that my daughter Brittany had invited over, and they would all be there. And I have great memories of all the kids that are now grown up.
Hey, Herm, let's talk a little racing here, and I think this is interesting because Herm is kind of like me. Okay, to some degree, but a lot more hyper.
Yep. You're hyper too. You're hyper.
I am. You're right. Absolutely. But he grew up a pavement racer. Now he's a dirt racer. Yep. Okay, he loves short track racing, like myself. I will admit. Okay, we got a guy here, Kenny, that doesn't like dirt racing, Mark Keeler.
I like it.
Come on. But
okay.
Right. I think what's interesting here is you're going to the Dirt Car Nationals. You're going to be running your UMP Modified for several nights.
Yep.
For the pavement racers that are listening, how many practice laps are you going to get, buddy?
I promise you, I'm honest. We'll get 0. None. Here's what happens. I will tell you the truth. We'll start racing on Tuesday, February 5th, next week. At this time next week, we'll be parked. We'll have our drivers meeting for the very first night of 7 straight nights. And they will say, gentlemen, on this very first night, we will give you 3 laps of practice. And then the second night, when you come on the track, you're going green flag, and that will be your qualifying. So and I love it. It's fun.
And how many cars are going to be there, you think?
We'll start out at about 75, 70, something like that, and that's for 24 starting spots. But there's talk this year about 100. See, when I started running down there, well, my best year so far down at Volusia in Barbersville, Florida, in 2012, we won 3 of 7 that year, and there was always like 100, 112, 100, something like that is what I remember. Always, it's a good time.
You know what I like is, you see you see Stremme over there, Schrader over there, Justin Allgaier is going to be over there. Sometimes Crafton goes over there. All the NASCAR guys, they love to just go to Volusia, have a good time, drink some beer afterwards, and just have a blast. But you know what I like? I like seeing some of the guys, that are trying to, knock off the big shots like yourself, like the Nick Hoffman. And I don't know if Mike Harrison's going to be down there or, Bollinger or anybody. But, what do you think about who you're going to see down there at that UMP Modified big event down at Volusia this year?
Well, first of all, a couple things. The reason we all go down there is it's a must-be at event. Doesn't pay good money, but the thrill of sitting in the same spot, same racetrack, and racing 7 straight nights, that's the reason we all go down. And let me just say this, Bob, and you know this, the whole industry is there. So, you know, everybody and anybody, all my sponsors, everybody's sponsors, they will be down there. So, you know, we kick the year off. It's like a kickoff. It's almost like a convention. You know, everybody needs to be down there because it's good for your brand. And then, you know, the second part you asked, you know, Nick Hoffman has quickly become the engineer of the sport, and now it's all David Stremme. And I run a lethal race car. They are all the rage now. Stremme has got incredible service. You know, you can buy one of his cars, you can order a part, you get it the next day. David Stremme at Lethal Chassis, he truly understands the business, and he understands that the local racer needs to call on a Monday morning and get parts. And so, you know, between Nick Hoffman and David Stremme, man, they got it going on, and those are our new superstars in modified racing.
We're taking a look. You posted this the other day on your Twitter. Your racing schedule coming up February 5th through the 11th, the Dirt Car Nationals and Volusia Speedway Park. That's just in the shadows of Daytona International Speedway, about 20 minutes away. You got the IMCA stock cars at Texas. You're going to be running down there February 22nd and 23rd, the 28th through March 2nd. Humboldt there in Kansas. You're going to be having fun March 21st and 23rd there at Humboldt as well. So you got a lot of racing going on. How many races do you have this year planned in your retirement stage of your life?
Well, and Bob, let me say this, way different than asphalt. Now, you know, I love asphalt. I listen to everybody talk about super late models. You know, everybody that has knowledge about me, I grew up in super late models. I know all about super late models. That is my wheelhouse. But the thing that I love about dirt racing is that, you know, when we leave Florida, I will have already run 6 races. So when I tell you right now that I'll easily run 60, Bob, that's so easy to do. That's one thing I love about dirt racing is, I mean, it's nothing in the summertime between June and July for us to run 30, 40 races because we will run 6 out of 7 nights. And so that's what's way different about dirt racing. You know, you can run a 20-lap feature and then the next night do it again, and it's just so much fun.
Now, Kenny, you're going to the race in Jukasa. Talk a little bit about that and how that event's going to be.
Well, what happened was last year I got invited up to race in Nova Scotia up in Canada at Riverside Speedway. Well, they had like a 3-4 hour practice, and I got going pretty good. And the biggest key was to get my steering wheel low and close to me. I wasn't turning the wheel very good. I wasn't because I've been running dirt, I forgot to turn the wheel left, and it was such a little bitty adjustment. But anyway, I finished third out of about 50 good super late models. They ended up giving me the win because they were 604 crate motors. It was a big $10,000 to win race. Well, when I won that big asphalt race, all of a sudden all the asphalt tracks started calling me. And one on the list was Jukasa up there in Canada. And then South Bend, Indiana. And then Stockton 99, the track that Ernie Irvin made famous. Now all of a sudden, you know, everybody looks back through my history and they're like, oh my God, we forgot Kenny Wallace was a super late model racer. So now next year, we've got 4 big races planned. You know, it'll be Jukasa and then Riverside Speedway, then South Bend, Indiana in the big wedge cars, and then once again out in Stockton. So, man, the asphalt races are just getting bigger and better for me.
Well, I love, you know, those outlaw late models, you know, those wedge-bodied cars. So they're going to be a lot of fun.
Yep.
I'll be watching you at South Bend, and we'll be seeing you a lot on speed51.com as well. Kenny, before I let you go, first of all, I'm super proud of you. And we've had these discussions, you know, before in the past.
I'm proud of you, too.
You know,
I'm proud of you, too.
It's so neat to see you. And it's almost like I talked to somebody the other day, and it was a NASCAR guy, and I can't remember. It's like it's so cool watching Kenny Wallace on Twitter because he don't give a crap anymore. You know, yeah. You're always outspoken, but now you just totally be yourself. And I think one thing that's cool is you always talk about PMA, okay? Positive mental attitude. And I think that's important for people to know because you've helped me. You know, I used to get crabby. I used to get mad. And you talked to me about having that positive mental attitude. And I think everybody in short track racing could take a lesson from that.
Well, we're all in this together. I'll say this, on Saturday or on Friday morning, I was in Springfield, Missouri at a chassis seminar. And then yesterday, Saturday, I was here at a chassis seminar. And my job at both chassis seminars was to tell my story. And my story to all the short track racers is this. We are all in this together. And when I tell my story, and it's so true how poor we grew up, just like you did, or the LaJoys grew up. We all grew up broke. And I tell the story of how Rusty Wallace had no money, completely broke, Kenny Schrader, and myself. And when I tell the story, it's about a 1 hour long speech. And then, when we made it to NASCAR, how did we maintain our sponsors? The feedback I got was, all the local racers, they asked the owners of these chassis seminars, they go, is that true? Did Kenny Wallace really build his own race cars? Did he really throw newspapers, to make a living? And it's all true, Bob. So when these local racers go, man, I don't have that brand name like Wallace does, I'm like, hold on. We did not have a brand name. Us Wallaces, we threw a newspaper route. We were broke, just like the LaJoys were, just like the Dillners were. So my positive mental attitude speech is to remind everybody, we all are the same. We all grew up broke ass. So I do not want to hear that excuse that if I had this, if I had that, I could do good. We didn't have anything. And dig, man, love the sport, work hard. Don't use money as an excuse because we didn't use it as an excuse. And that's my message.
Absolutely. And I love that. I remember my dad and Herm's dad was very important in who he is right now. My dad was too. And we used to dig fences for people and use my dad would never get the mechanical auger. We'd always used to have the fence hole digger. Yep. and do it manually or cleaning gutter slime out of the gutters of people's houses. And he said, Bob, just remember, be happy, do the best that you can, and work hard. And I think that's what everybody has done for sure. Kenny, before I let you go, one other question. A lot of talk this morning about the Snowball Derby, the controlled cautions. Basically, instead of live pit stops and pitting when you want and losing spots on pit road, you're not going to be able to do that anymore to some degree. They're going to have a controlled caution, a certain amount of laps. You're going to be able to come down without losing a position, change the tires, make adjustments on the cars, that sort of thing. Kyle Busch started a big conversation about that on Twitter yesterday. A lot of people, including yourself, chimed in. Just your thoughts on that subject.
I feel very strongly that they are doing the right thing, and here's why, Bob. Anytime any association, whether it be NASCAR, the old ASA, IMCA, UMP, any and every single time there is a rules change, people bitch and moan and complain. I'm sorry, but somebody's going to have to sacrifice.
So true.
For example, I'm sorry to say, but for example, my dear friend Marty Gaunt up at Triad, when NASCAR said, okay, we have to go to spec motors in the truck series, it put a couple motor people out of business. Listen, somebody has to sacrifice. This racing is completely out of control right now. I mean, it's unbelievable. So, now, this is a start. Now listen, they got a long way to go. They have got to get rid of all this testing and practice. And, it is a start. There's a lot more to go. And what I would like for all asphalt short track racing to do, they have got to eliminate all this testing and practice. And here's why. Because everybody does it. Everybody tests, everybody practice. So now there's no advantage. And we're just wasting all this money. if you are a young kid, you just have to pay your dues. I'm sorry. You don't get the test. You don't get the practice. Sorry. Take yourself 2 or 3, 4 years to get going like the Bush brothers did. They didn't get the practice. They didn't get the test. If you are a kid and you're going to the snowball derby, run the snowflake. That's your deal. Your testing will be run the snowflake. That will be your test session. You don't get the practice. So I'm sorry, but they got a long way to go. I know I'm right. I pay my own bills. I did all this. That stuff is out of hand, and we will literally drive. Well, we've already done it. The super late model asphalt racing is in the ground right now. The local asphalt racing in Wisconsin is dead. They got 9 track cars showing up at these racetracks. Now, I know I show up at the racetracks, and that's the way it is. So they got a long way to go.
Absolutely, and hopefully we get there for sure. Kenny Wallace, I could keep you on forever, but I don't want to do that. I know you're a busy man from everything that you do. Go sell some more aluminum. Sell some more scrap heap to get some more beer money, buddy.
Yeah, I got rid of the aluminum. Now it's time to get rid of the metal.
10-4. Well, Kenny Wallace, we'll see you down in Florida, not at Daytona, but at Volusia this time.
I'm excited. See you all down there.
You got it. Kenny Wallace on the morning Bullring here on Speed 51. Kenny, he's a guy that just gets it, honestly, because, and I mean this, very, admiringly. He's a common man, okay? Like he said, the Wallaces were not, rich people. Honestly, it's not like we see a lot of these kids come up through the ranks these days. They fought for whatever they had. And I like the fact that all 3 brothers, okay, Rusty, Kenny, and Mike are all different. And they have unique personalities and love each and every one of them. They have a unique perspective on racing because they made it to the big time. They're still dabbling around in the short track racing routes, and that's what I love about them.
Yeah, and Kenny's got a perfect perspective because he's seen it on both sides. He used to be an asphalt racer. Now he's a dirt racer, and he could see what dirt's doing right and what asphalt's doing wrong. So he gets almost an above. He can look at it from outside.
In addition to inviting everybody here at Studio 51 to discuss those things in a roundtable discussion, we want to do that here on the Morning Bullring or the Unfiltered podcast. Come on, let us know. Let us know when you want to come to Concord, North Carolina. In addition to that, we just want to say that this is a show for all of you fans to have a voice in as well. And we love all the different comments that we're getting. And we want to make sure that you know 2 things. Number 1, we are going to give away 2 tickets to the Winter Showdown at Kern County Raceway Park. That is this Friday and Saturday out in Bakersfield, California. All you have to do is share this Facebook Live post this morning to have a shot. In coming weeks, we got a lot more to give out. We got K&N East tickets to the new Smyrna Speedway. What else do we have? Brandon should be texting me right now because we have all sorts of stuff to give away. And we're also going to have something using the hashtag Morning Bullring, the tweet of the week. And we're starting to see them come in right now, people watching. In fact, my brother actually from Junior Motorsports there for the NASCAR Xfinity Series team, he's working this morning, but he's also watching. Just saw a picture of him watching Kenny Wallace here this morning on the Morning Bullring. So make sure you use the hashtag Morning Bullring. We will choose a tweet of the week next week here live on the show. And next week we'll be giving away a brand new hashtag More Short Track shirt that just says pavement or dirt. Doesn't matter, baby, because we love it all. And you'll be getting one of those brand new shirts. Casey, I know you have one of them.
I do, and it fits great. I do want to say that Boo Carlisle.
Come on, you can do it.
I know. It's early. All right. He tweeted a cool picture. He made a hiding spot at work, and he's watching us.
Hiding spot. I love that.
Let's see it, Case. Hold it up to the camera there.
With this one?
Yeah.
That one?
There you go.
Tom Ryan could pull it up on his fancy computer.
Yeah, he probably could.
He could.
Actually, he might have it up. I'm not even paying attention. No, this is actually what Tom pulled up. A little flashback.
Oh my
here.
gosh, that was from the Snowball Derby with Ryan Preece back in the day. Ryan Preece going to be running the Daytona 500 and the NASCAR Cup Series in a couple of weeks at Daytona. That was Ryan's first stock car start. How about that? In the Snowball Derby, Gosh, I can't remember what year that was, but that was all of us. I think my brother, Matthew Dillner, is there. Duke Kenfield, just a good group of people. Bon Suss was back in the day. Mike Herman Jr., spotter in the NASCAR ranks. Joey Dwyron was on that crew that year. Michael Pope was on that crew. We had a blast down there at the Snowball Derby.
2008.
2008.
Right?
Okay. Yep, we were running 8th at that time with that race car. That was a Hamke chassis car. I guess you could call it a Rowdy manufacturing car right now. Mac Tools gave us free tools, okay, for some advertising and from some public speaking that I did back in the day. Gatorade, you see that on the car. They literally gave us some coolers and some drink, So you talk about, just, swapping out for whatever you can. As a race car driver, owner, team member, you do whatever you can to go racing. And that's what we did back in the day.
Why doesn't Ryan Preece look happy?
Ryan Preece wasn't happy at the time. We didn't qualify. I think that was right before the race, but we were running 8th with like 50 laps to go. And Scott Carlson hit the wall coming off the 4th corner, got together with Gary St. Amant. We were right on Gary St. Amant's rear end there with his, famous number 7 car. And we got involved in a mishap, finished 13th after some damage to the front end of that car with Ryan, but loved working with Ryan Preece back in the day. A lot of fun, for sure.
Yeah.
We got more coming up on the morning Bullring. Derek Thorne, he's won the Winter Showdown. Remember, we're giving away those free tickets by sharing our Facebook Live. Derek Thorne will be on the online racing school hotline when we come back here to the morning Bullring.
PFC Brakes. More championships than any other. From late models to modifieds on pavement and dirt. With at-track service like no other. Success means no compromises.
A 5th win of the year for Ty Majeski. He'll take it.
Lighter, stiffer, cooler, quicker. PFC Brakes. The secret is, it's quicker.
The Boars Compact Touring Series is a 4-cylinder front-wheel drive mess. And it's coming to a track near you. A dozen races in 3 different states in 2019 will keep the 4-cylinder fans buzzing with excitement. The famed Lucas Oil Raceway and other trips too.
Anderson, Shady Bowl, Toledo, Fairfield,
Winchester, plus it's Bristol, baby. Returns on May 31st.
Racecar Engineering is your single-source supplier for all your racing equipment. Dirt, asphalt, drag strip, street rod, or off-road. Their experts can keep you on the track and in the lead no matter what type of racing you do. Hundreds of brands, thousands of parts. Find them online at racecareng.com or call them toll-free at 800-882-7231 and make sure to ask for your free catalog. That's Racecar Engineering, 800-882-7231.
Lots to talk about on the morning Bullring here on Speed 51. It's 9:38. Casey, what does that mean?
I don't know. It's 9:38.
We're in overtime once again. My wife Angie picks on me all the time because she's like, "You guys cannot stay on time."
No,
but that's not what this show is about. Staying on time. Honestly, it's just about talking about.
That's why you said
short track racing.
It didn't even register that we went overtime because we're actually early than we have been. So
we have a good time. This show is free. It will remain free on our Facebook Live feed as well as on speed51.com. Make sure you share it. By sharing it each and every week, you will actually go into a little raffle of sorts. This week, we're giving away Winter Showdown tickets. Next week, tickets to the K&N East race at New Smyrna Speedway. Looking at social media, a lot of good stuff on here. Renee Hackett actually chimed in real early in the show, around that 7:45 realm. So nice to have Renee Hackett from the PRA Tours, the Southern Modified Racing Series, the Super Late Model Series 602 Tour, you name it. And she says, this is a great topic in terms of discussing things with racers and so forth. And we haven't had a chance to talk about that too much this morning. We're running out of time. We will in the coming episodes, as well as practice time for pavement late model racing. But she said, you know what? She believes racers are afraid to speak up sometimes at those forums and so forth and those driver meetings. But, it's very easy to attain, is what Renee was saying, for these drivers to get the phone numbers of these series directors and so forth. So give them a call, certainly.
Yeah.
Ben Sumner from Watermelon Capital Speedway, where Speedfest 2019 was just held. He just wanted to say thank you to all of us for our support. We appreciate that, Ben. But the key thing here in what he said was that there was a record turnout of race teams and spectators. Can't wait until Speedfest 2020. Yeah. Unbelievable crowd down there at Chris Motorsports Park.
It was awesome. And haulers were parked outside the racetrack. Well, they were all parked outside the racetrack for the race, but practice and all that, parked outside, inside, everything was packed.
They've got a new pit area there they did on the backstretch, and I can tell you I've been to every Speedfest since 2012 at Crisp or Cordial or Watermelon Capital. Casey's got a great video about that. But, no, by far, the crowd in the grandstands was unbelievable. Best one that I've ever seen there.
Just because you went to that camera.
Yep.
We'll stay with that camera.
You want to get this guy talking?
We'll get more social in a second. Welcome, Mamba, to the morning Bullring. Dylan Smith with us to deliver the news at 9:41 in the morning.
Hey, guys. How's it going? Happy to be here. Yeah, so we had some racing going on this weekend.
Really?
Yeah. Atlantic City, Indoor Midgets. Andy Janikowiak.
Oh, come on, get it right.
Jankowiak. I'm from New England.
That's like him saying Carlisle.
You should get it right. He's from New York.
Yeah, I'm from New England. I should be able to get it right.
It'd have been easier if Skip won it.
Yeah, So actually, Skip finished third. Tim Bulk.
He got hit late in the race. I was told he was taken out.
He wasn't taken out. I told you he got the boot. He got the boot.
Sometimes that happens, especially in those midgets.
That's right.
You're right. Those TQs. Tim Bulkwalter finished second. We also had Connor Okresic. He won the CRS.
It's hard to see his name, too.
Oh.
I'm giving you all the tough stuff.
Man, first time out.
Spell it.
Wheeling.
Me and Tom had an idea at Speed Weeks. Even though Okresic won't be there, I think we should interview the drivers and see who can spell on the spot. Who can spell Okresic?
That's a good idea.
For the 51 network.
Listen, you're asking for a lot.
Yes.
Drivers you spell.
Jankowiak, Okresic. Who else you got for us?
Casey Roderick won the Pro Late race. Jason Hyatt won the National 100 Dirt Late Model race at a East Alabama Motor Speedway. Right?
Yep, right. You got it.
And then the tweet that was heard across the racing community from Kyle Busch, talking about the Snowball Derby and how we're taking away the live pit stops. And actually, Casey, old LaJoy over here, got involved with it. And I thought the best tweet that I saw through the whole thing was Kyle responding to Casey and talking about the promoters and the track owners and the series directors getting involved in making decisions, and how he talked to Bubba, and they were both like really sickened. He said sickened by the decisions being made and their phones not ringing.
Yeah, that was my whole point. Kyle had a lot of things to say, and I wanted to hear his thoughts on what we could do to fix it. I don't like hearing people complain and having no solution. I like hearing, okay, you don't like this, what can we do? So that was my whole point.
They got solutions for sure. Yeah. Sometimes they're not listened to, unfortunately. Yeah. And by the way, you went down and ran the Snowflake.
Yeah.
Okay, you done with your news, by the way?
Yeah, that
was
it.
Okay, that was it. Okay, I just want to make sure.
I mean, you wrote it for me, so I mean, come on.
Full transparency.
No.
Full transparency.
I gave him bullet points of what to talk about at what time, and
awesome.
Of course we relate with the news. But Mama's going to be part of the morning Bullring
right
from time to time here. I do like the fact the New England Patriots will be playing in the Super Bowl on Sunday, and we have 3 Patriots fans on the show right now. If you can't count Brandon Paul. You're going to the Super Bowl?
I'm not going to the Super Bowl game. I'm going to Atlanta for the all the experience and all the fun stuff leading up.
They've already got stuff going on.
We're going to have a good time. I'm excited.
You should come down to Golden Isles Speedway for the Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series on Friday and then go to the Super Bowl.
That's actually a great idea.
Yeah. Yeah. You can come on down, crash in my hotel room, come see some good dirt racing.
He might take you up on that offer.
All right. He's in.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to get your take on the control cautions thing as well. What's your thoughts?
Well, I've been thinking about it for a while, listening to everyone talk about it, and the K&N Pro Series just went to that control caution this last year. And being a part of that series, we got to watch it firsthand, and I thought it was good. It kept the variable in it of being able to have a different strategy, but it also didn't ruin ruin you by putting you, so far back. So you still have the strategy. It's not live like some people want, but it's a good mix of both, I feel like.
Hey, by the way, this camera angle right there is really interesting because you look like really tall and Mark looks really short.
But yeah, Mark is really short.
Big heart, little man.
Well, Mama, we'll brush up on
My
your
heart must
news
be
reading
huge.
skills here. But good job for the first time.
Hey, we're working on it. Work in progress.
That's right.
Got to start somewhere.
Dylan Smith, and if you want to sponsor a good guy that can get you a ton of exposure, Dylan Smith is the guy. Follow him on Twitter. He's got a great following right there and wants to run some more pro late model races coming up this year, so follow Dylan Smith on Twitter. All right, time to talk a little Winter Showdown coming up here. Of course, the big race at Kern County Raceway Park. That's this Friday and Saturday. They also have some practice on Thursday. Practice, yes, we're talking about practice. Like Alan Iverson said, there's Dylan Smith's car. And then all of a sudden, there's the Pittsburgh Steelers. That figures Tom Ryan controlling the graphics. Would put the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Trying to crash the camera.
Where are they right now? They didn't even make the playoffs, so don't even go there, Harry. Anyway, let's go to our online racing school hotline, and that is where Derek Thorne is standing by, a former winner of the Winter Showdown. And hey, Derek, talking about the Super Bowl, New England Patriots there. You're from California. Are you rooting for the old LA Rams?
Yeah, it's hard not to, man. We've been a couple hours away. It's I haven't been a Rams follower, but I guess I got to stick to the West Coast. The West Coast love. I'm going to give some love out.
Oh boy! So Derek and I, we see eye to eye because Derek is a tall race car driver, and Derek, I love interviewing you. Not only are you personable, not only are you a good race car driver, but you're tall, and I like that.
It makes it way easier to interview. I'll tell you that. Definitely beats the slouching category. So anytime you interview me, I always look forward to you to stand up straight for once.
But we'll be on opposite sides of the spectrum this week at the Super Bowl.
Who's ahead in the cornhole competition between you and Derek so far?
We missed last year. I think we're 1-1.
1-1.
Yeah, I think so. I think he's got to come back to the Snowball Derby this year. What do you think, Derek?
Yeah, I think so. I'm hoping the boss is talking about it. He's been interested in doing it, and we're hoping that got an entire year to go. But I hope that the cards fall that way again. It's always a good time.
How about this for segues? And we didn't even plan this, but speaking of the Snowball Derby, controlled cautions and so forth. Let's get a West Coast perspective here. How about it, Derek?
I've been thinking about it a lot, and I've seen some of the stuff on Twitter a little bit off and on, and that's it's tough. I feel like it's the right direction. I think there's, as many people have said it, there's a long ways to go. I think in racing as far as testing, practice, tires, just overall distance or length of a weekend. But to have the control caution thing kind of be, hopefully, the new staple. Hopefully it gets some more cars at the track. I'm assuming that's the end result, is try to get some guys that would otherwise shy away from that race, maybe come down and do it and not feel so intimidated by having to get a pit crew. So hopefully, with the thing in place, hopefully it brings more cars, more people. Hopefully the fans can still enjoy it to a certain extent. I don't know. Being control caution, I'd like to see kind of like a semi-control caution where they give you like, say, 2 laps under control caution instead of like a 4 or 5 lap window.
Love it.
To where so at least you're seeing the fans are seeing some action, but I haven't heard any other details on exactly how the control caution might work.
And you look on social media and a lot of people think, less practice, less tires, this, that, and the other. But Derek actually took advantage of the last race of the season, the last Blizzard race of the season at Five Flags, and you took that as, I would say, a practice race. And, we see some people do that, but I don't think a lot of people take advantage of it as much as they should. So I want to, everybody look at the way Derek Thorne and the way, Campbell Motorsports does business and does racing, instead of saying, hey, we're going to come do a private test, we're going to spend all this money. No, we're going to come race at, they race all year at Five Flags. You can come race whenever. So, that's, instead of saying, let's take away practice, there's always different solutions. The way you guys approached it, you said, we're going to go race at Five Flags in preparation for the Snowball Derby, and I like that.
Yeah, no, I think Byron Campbell, he's the guy that makes it all possible for us, and he gives us that opportunity. 'Cause it's hard to go from West Coast to East Coast unless you have a little single-car trailer and truck and 2 or 3 dudes that are willing to spend, 3-4 days on the road. It's tough, expensive, and, anytime you travel from East Coast to West Coast. But to be able to have that opportunity, there's no practice, and there's no testing that can emulate a race condition. So to be able to go back there ahead of time for us to get some seat time, track time with the guys we'd be racing against, we thought would be a better bet than trying to test a couple weeks before.
Hey, Winter Showdown coming up this weekend. The SRL Spears Tour out there. Non-points race, but a big race. Definitely a crown jewel in super late model racing. You were able to win that race a couple of years ago. Kyle Busch came back, scored the big victory last year. He won't be there this year. What do you think about your chances this weekend with a stout field of entrants so far?
You know, to always have the Winter Showdown in our backyard is always kind of a special thing to us. We always look at the Five Flag Speedway Snowball Derbies, our Daytona 500, but this right here is right there with it. And whenever people have asked me throughout the week how I feel about it, whenever I go into a race feeling great about it, I always end up, falling short or having something go wrong. Whenever I go into the race weekend feeling like everything's falling apart, everything seems to come back together again. So I'm going to go into it with an open mind. I feel like we always have, the best prepared equipment, I could ever think about having with Cal Motorsports, Mike Keene, Byron Campbell. And we're just going to go to the weekend, take it one day at a time. And hopefully, come Saturday afternoon, we're holding that check.
Now, there is no Kyle Busch showing up this year, but you do have the brand new Rowdy manufacturing car showing up for Preston Peltier. What do you expect for that team and that new, I wouldn't say new team because it's Hamke, but it's under a new banner. So what do you expect for that team?
With moving forward, someone like that to have that kind of help and support behind them, is Rowdy getting involved and Hamke is as strong as they've been in the past. There's no reason why they shouldn't be, running up front. Just one of them things where they have a lot to learn in a short period of time. So they're trying some new stuff. So I don't know if they're out here testing ahead of time, but I expect them to be strong as ever.
And we've seen some guys, a Blaine Rocha, a Buddy Shepard and so forth, as guys. We come out to the Winter Showdown, and all of a sudden there's these new names over the course of the last, 5 years or so that this race has been in existence. Who do you think we're going to be talking about this year as a person that maybe won't win, but maybe will be putting up an impressive, run that we'll be talking about them?
There's actually quite a few kids that a lot of times they don't get the credit they deserve, like you said, but there's a couple kids. Jack Wood, I know, is out here on the West Coast, runs SRL quite a bit. Eric Schmidt, he's not no young spring chicken, but he's been in the SRL Southwest Tour and in California for a while, but he had really strong runs last year, and there was a couple races we won that he was right there and just didn't have the luck he needed. But he's one of the guys that's kind of been a sleeper that I've been watching that he always does real well, but just, hasn't had the luck or necessarily the luck to go along with it. So a couple guys like that in the field that are always really strong, just sometimes miss it by just a little bit.
I want to get your perspective on this. We talked about this on our Unfiltered podcast last year, and we were debating. Well, I wasn't debating, but people were debating whether or not the Winter Showdown is a crown jewel. In fact, Brandon Paul, said I hadn't been around long enough, whatever it may be. And I'm sure Brandon's like, oh, don't bring this up right now. Listen, I think it's spectacular. I think it's race number 3 in terms of crown jewels for pavement super late model racing in America in just 5 years. What is your take on that?
It's all perspective being in Bakersfield and only 30 minutes from the track. I think it's absolutely a crown jewel. It's, I think any series promoter, any series director, any main race in the country, a lot of work goes into this stuff. And the facility at Kern County Raceway, in my opinion, is one of the nicest, if not the nicest short tracks in the country. It's a beautiful facility. There's been a lot of time, money, preparation put into that place. So to have a race at that track, I think a lot of people out, on the East Coast haven't necessarily seen that facility, but, I think when they see it, it rivals almost any other track in the country. So to have $30,000 to win, which is one of the highest purses, I believe, in the country for super late model racing, at a facility like that can draw guys from the East Coast and a lot of guys from around here, I feel like there's no reason why it shouldn't be up towards the top or at least in contention to be, labeled as a crown jewel event.
I'm going to go towards another topic that has been in the forefront, especially after the whole meeting with Bubba at Speedfest. The 5-star bodies won't be allowed this weekend. Do you think that's going to affect the people coming out at all?
I keep hearing rumors of that. I don't know. I don't really have I'm not saying I don't have an opinion, because I really firmly believe that, short track racing needs guidance and people to believe in and different directions and stuff like that, or a direction. And the body topic's a tough one. I don't know if it's keeping people from, if they got a complete car sitting on the shop floor and their only decision is, they haven't made a body decision yet. I don't want to buy an older body. I'm going to wait until they approve the new one. I don't know if there's 10 guys sitting there on jack stands at the shop with that situation, or if it's just a sign of the times. I can't, without knowing a lot of people, I haven't heard a lot of rumblings from a lot of different people. So I'm not really sure exactly what that would if that is affecting this turnout or not.
Now you look at the Chili Willy this past weekend in Tucson, Arizona. Michael Scott was using one of those brand new 5-star bodies. He went to Victory Lane. They had a mix of really old bodies. I saw a Grand Prix out there, Derek. It was incredible, a blast from the past. But they had nearly 50 cars out there for the Chili Willy. And that event continues to grow, and hopefully we'll see folks like Derek Thorne go out there and Jeremy Doss and so forth in the coming years. But this weekend, you talked about the niceness of the facility. How difficult or how competitive is this race going to be this weekend that people are going to be able to see live on speed51.com? If you can't make it to California, you could see it live, not for a pay-per-view ticket. This will be if you are a premium member of speed51.com. You'll be able to watch the race live on Speed51. So what do you think in terms of the competition and how tough this race is going to be?
Man, that's so cool you guys do that. You guys definitely give short track racing a shot in the arm, and I don't get a chance to thank you guys a lot, but for what you guys do for our deal and for my fans and family at home that can't come to the race, it's always cool they can go online, speed51.com, and be able to tune into something like that. But this race is always, in my opinion, proved it's a tire we're on is a new, softer tire that is definitely has fall off, in any form of racing. I feel like the more fall off you have, the more competitive racing you have. You have to have a little bit of tire strategy. You have to be conscious behind the wheel of the car you're driving and the limits at which you can drive it and how hard you can go. So to be able to be around, a half a dozen really fast guys or dozen fast guys, I feel like strategy comes into play, a lot of side-by-side racing, and hopefully the fans can come away from this race, with their heads held high and excited about coming.
And moving on from this race after this weekend's over, what are your 2019 plans? Do you have anything exciting planned or anything that you possibly haven't done before?
As of right now, not necessarily. We don't have a definite schedule out yet, but it does look like we'll probably try to hit up some open shows this year as far as Winter Showdown, Summer Showdown, possibly a Snowball Derby and the All-American 400.
Super select at Lucas Oil Raceway.
Yeah, there you go. And it's one of the things as the year goes along, I feel like it's with the Boss Man, I feel like it's more fun to kind of go along and just pick and choose what's readily available. There's a few SRL points races that overlap with some of the open shows, so I don't see SRL points or SRL racing be a full-time deal for points this year, but it's always fun to be able to come out there and run some of these open shows and get a feel for East Coast talent and get to race against them guys so we can try to make ourselves better.
And I apologize if an announcement was made about this, but I didn't hear you talk about any West races, the K&N Pro Series West. What's going on there? Because you won the championship last year.
Yeah, that was kind of a one-year deal with Bob. We sat down at the beginning of the season, and then, there was really no discussion about a second year, and 2019 came about, and it just never really came to fruition. As one of those things where it's I guess a one and done, so to speak. So to go out and get the championship in our 1 year hiatus after a 5-year break was pretty cool.
Hey, we talked to race car drivers this morning, Jonathan Davenport, Kenny Wallace. We talked to them about their families and so forth. And I know, when we saw each other out at Bakersfield last year, how pumped up you were to have a kid finally. And how's Hudson and the entire family doing there?
They're doing great. Thanks for asking. He's just getting to the age now. It makes it tough. Like we ran the K&N schedule last year. I probably ran like 25 races or so last year, but he's getting smart enough now. Like he sees me put my hat on, put my keys in my pocket, and like he latches onto my pant leg. And it's getting tough to leave the house now while he's awake. So it's just one of those things. It's a great experience, but also tears at your emotions. You're going to the racetrack. Takes its toll on families at home. And it's one of those things where it's. Definitely as he gets older, and he maybe another couple of years he'll go with me, but at this stage in his life, he's too young to really go full time without being a pain in the butt. So it's cool to see him want to go, but it'll be nice the day we actually can.
Hey, what about this weekend? We're looking at a picture of your family right now from Facebook. What about this weekend? Will we see the family there with you?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Absolutely. It's hard to pass up. We only live about 15 minutes, 20 minutes or so from the racetrack, so it's definitely one of the convenient races for the wife to load the kid up and take him out to the races for the weekend.
Well, that is pretty cool. We're looking forward to the Winter Showdown this weekend. And Derek, nice to have you on here on the Morning Bullring.
Hey, always a pleasure, man. Thank you guys for having us.
You got it. That's Derek Thorne. Won 2 years ago at the Winter Showdown in Bakersfield, California, Kern County Raceway Park. He was on the online racing school hotline here on the Morning Bullring. That race this weekend, you'll see Trackside Now coverage on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. The Trackside Now coverage will continue, but we will also have live coverage via a video stream for premium network members only on Speed 51. No pay-per-view. So literally for $9.99 for the entire month or $79.99 a year, you will be able to have access to watch the live stream both on Friday and Saturday from Kern County Raceway Park.
So essentially, if you pay for the network, you get to watch some racing for free 99. That's how it works.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love free 99.
we will love all that free stuff, right?
Yeah.
Bob Bowles, Bubba Gale will be part of the Racing Seminar Technology Program. That's March 9th and 10th at Nashville, Tennessee. They'll be going to Wisconsin just shortly after that. Cale Gale on the program earlier to talk all about what that program is, whether you're a Legends car racer, a super late model racer, maybe a pro stock or street stock, modified, you name it. You can actually learn a lot from those gentlemen, and they'll be having that seminar. Check out the onlineracing.school.com and click on the Nashville Seminar tab. Folks, we're going to take a quick break here on Speed 51, and we're going to try to get the star from The Office, Michael Scott himself. No, I'm just kidding. No, we'll be getting the Chili Willy winner, hopefully, on our online racing school hotline here on the Morning Bullring. We'll be right back. Tell him he can come on in 2 weeks. Hey, ask him if he's going to be on Florida. Okay. Tell him he can come live on the show if he makes his ass early in the morning and he comes over to New Smyrna Speedway early in the morning. 2 weeks, February 11th.
I was going to give Derek crap because he blasted his eye on that Gale Force machine. I was going to tell him
You should have. That'd be funny. Let me know when you got Michael Scott. I know nothing about him. I'm like, let's talk about free giveaways and social. Kern County Raceway Park, the Winter Showdown, the 5th annual. I can't believe it's the 5th annual event for that Crown Jewel Super Late Model Race. This weekend here, you can see it live on the Speed 51 Video Network for premium members only. So if you're not on the West Coast, you can still see some great racing action Friday and Saturday here on Speed 51. Just want to say that we thank you for watching. This show is scheduled to be a raw show. Nothing fancy. We're just going to show you some pictures, talk about short track racing, which we love so much. And we love the fact that a lot of people are chiming in and listening this morning. Mike Parks from the Granite State Pro Stock Series up in New England, talking about how Kenny Wallace was spot on. And I believe he was here this morning. Some great reaction from social media.
Yeah, Stan Narrison commented. He said, "Controlled cautions work, guys." He's like, if you don't believe it, just watch the Pro Late Model race at
Montgomery Motor Speedway.
It wouldn't come out at Montgomery Motor Speedway.
I love
that'll happen
up early.
Yeah. It's going to be fun. Stan Harrison's going to be coming on our show in the next couple of weeks to talk about the Alabama 200, March 2nd and 3rd, I believe it is there. Second, there you go, perfect, at Montgomery Motor Speedway. And there's a lot of people talking about a lot of good short track racing. We've covered a lot of topics, and I haven't looked at the Facebook. Any comments on Facebook?
Tons of comments on Facebook. Tons of comments.
You got to share it, by the way, for a chance to win Winter Showdown tickets.
Right.
So everybody on the West Coast, and we thank Derek Thorne for waking up so early to talk to us on the West Coast because they're 3 hours behind where we are. But you can win those tickets by just sharing this Facebook Live feed.
I saw a question to Kenny. I wish we still had
Oh,
Kenny.
darn it.
This is a great question. It says, Kenny, were you ever worried about cussing on live TV?
Yes, he was. Yes. In fact, Rick Miner used to be our boss. And I asked one time, I said, hey, what if we say a bad word? I think I asked about the phrase badass. Clint Boyer uses it all the time. Yeah. And I said, can I use badass on the air? Listen, we're on internet here. We can do whatever we want. But he said, sure. Once.
Yeah.
That's a true story, honestly. I'm sure he was worried about that because Kenny Wallace, this is how he would come in to the morning meetings. I remember years ago, he would come in and he would basically say, hey, everybody, how you doing? How you doing? All right, I got my stack or two energy drink. How you doing? What are we talking about this morning? Okay, this is what show is this? This is the race day show. Okay, honey, can you? I forget your name. What's your name? Karen. Okay, can you get me another drink?
With about 18 profanities in there.
Yeah, he was awesome.
You remember the time he just popped into our office here?
Oh, yes.
And it only took about 4 words in, and he's not the quietest person that we've had in the office before. So we all knew in very short order that Kenny Wallace had walked through the front door.
Yeah, and
that was pretty fun.
If you want to be on the Morning Bullring, certainly send us a tweet or a Facebook message, or if you have our numbers, call us, stop by the office. Mark Keeler and Tom Ryan love to talk to everybody that comes by the office. Just go by past the first office and keep on going down the hall. Tom Ryan's the last office on the left. And speaking of Tom Ryan,
don't worry about the dog.
Yeah, don't worry about the dog. Casey the shop dog, he's very friendly. Congratulations to Abigail. This is her trophy. Despite her dad not being there this weekend, she was able to use this race car right here and win the Pinewood Derby. Now, the car is still going through post-race tech, so it's not official yet.
Ricky's had
it's impounded.
Yeah. But we're going to be sending that car to Ricky Brooks right after the show.
Yes. And Tom needs some new glasses.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, look at Tom.
He kept telling everybody at Speedfest that I punched him.
Yes. It looks like it.
Everybody's like, what happened to your glasses? Because they did look way worse. He had tape jobbed them bad. And everybody's like, what happened? And he goes, he punched me.
Yeah. Well, you asked me to get questions at Cordeal, and it was right after I did this. So we went up and talked about 15, 20 people, and they're like, oh, my God, what happened?
At least he switched over to black tape.
RJ Scott get you? Boom.
One lady was real upset with Casey because she asked me what happened. I'm like, he hit me. She's like, you're mean. What's wrong with you?
I'm like, he messed up the shot. I don't know.
That is awesome. And remember, folks, we want to see pictures right now of you watching this show. We want to see different pictures throughout the week of different things in terms of the Morning Bullring. Use that hashtag, the Morning Bullring. We will have a tweet of the week. Maybe Mama can help us out with that a little bit, too, because he's really good on that social media thing. But make sure you do that. This week, we're going to be giving away a hashtag more short tracks. Pavement or dirt, doesn't matter. We love it all. That's the shirt we're giving away. Next week, we're going to be giving away some more stuff. So use the hashtag Morning Bullring to be part of that contest, and maybe you'll have a brand new shirt.
David Kohler asked if we're going to talk about the town hall meeting that Bubba had at Speedfest and then all about the changes to the Snowball Derby. David? I don't know which David.
We've been on for an hour
As
now.
soon as this is over, rewind and watch. Because, literally, I think
First hour.
every guest we've had on, we've talked about it. So.
And here's the deal. To be honest, David, that would take an entire program.
Oh, yeah.
I think we might be talking about that on the Unfiltered podcast this week. So from the Google Play Store, from the iTunes, the podcast store, from Apple, you'll be able to download that podcast. And hopefully the podcast for the Morning Bullring this week as well.
That was my fault last week.
Oh,
so.
we're working on it. We're working on it.
But
so
you haven't missed anything. If you're looking for the Unfiltered podcast, it's just been an unbelievable season. But you haven't missed anything, so we haven't put it up. So I just don't want people to think that they've been at the wrong channel or not seeing something.
And I got to say that, listen, and this is going to be a little bit self-serving, whatever. My team here, our team, has done such a good job, and we are managing like an unbelievable time at Speed 51. We go from Cordeal, we go to Winter Showdown. There's a lot of logistics. Thank you to David Gilliland Racing for bringing our equipment out there. And then we go to Speed Weeks, and we'll be doing a lot of stuff down there. I'm sure it'll be announced pretty soon. So there's a lot of logistics. Mark Keeler doing a great job, Tom Ryan, Zach Evans, Alec Jorgensen, Connor Sullivan, Brandon Paul, all of our other people as well. Just a fantastic job. Angie and I talk about that all the time, and we're just so blessed to have all of them as part of our team. So I understand we do have the Chili Willy winner on the online racing school hotline right now. So to complete the show, let's talk to Michael Scott from the office. How you doing, Michael?
I'm good. How are you guys today?
How many times do you get that, dude?
Oh, a ton.
Do you like the Office program?
You know, I've never watched it, to be honest.
That is funny. You and Mark Keeler.
I'm not the only one that hasn't watched it.
That's right. Tom Ryan hasn't watched it. That's just a crime.
I've only watched a couple episodes, so I'm not like an avid The Office.
So we appreciate you waking up this morning and talking to us. Did you have to wake up for this? Were we your wake up call?
Oh, no.
Okay.
I'm up about 4 a.m. every day, so.
Well, why? Why would somebody do that?
Work.
So what do you do for a
Gotta
living?
make that money to pay for that race car.
That's right.
That's true.
I run a trucking company in Cheyenne, Wyoming, so we stay pretty busy.
Oh, wow. 4 o'clock in the morning. So
Yeah.
we could have had him on earlier in the
Right.
program, honestly. We didn't know. And honestly, Casey and I, we apologize. We don't know a lot about you. So for people that don't know much about Michael Scott, other than the fact that we've seen his name at some races and so forth, what's your career been like in the racing realm?
It's been not too bad. I started racing about 5 years ago, I guess, and normally raced pro truck at Colorado National Speedway, and just kind of worked our way up into the super late model, and this will be our third full season in the super late model, and it seems to be going pretty good.
Michael, talk about you guys had to, just reading our story on Speed 51, you had to overcome a lot of adversity after hitting the wall, and then what happened? Somehow made the car better? I've never heard of that happening.
I have.
Yeah, I don't know. We bent some parts, and we haven't actually done a post race setup yet, but those bent parts seem to help a little bit. So we'll have to figure out what it is when we go to work on it again.
Yeah, definitely take those measurements, because whatever your bent parts measurements we're giving you, that's the setup you need to have at Tucson again, because I heard you were really good. And we're looking at a picture that was posted on the Speed 51 5-Star Race Car Bodies Facebook feed with a brand new 5-star body. Big question to you, with a lot of the talk and the controversy and all that sort of thing. Why did you decide to go with that body?
Mainly for the look and to give a fresh look for the sport. It's been the same body for a long time, and I think fans look forward to new things, and to get more people to show up and go, hey, what's that? I think that's important, so that people keep showing up so we can keep racing.
What are you going to do with the $10,000?
Buy new parts, Eddie Ben.
Shorter ones.
Yeah. Get my race car ready.
Yeah.
You never make money in racing, so it's one of those things that just help keep the program going.
Michael, talk about not a lot of people have mounted up this body, this new one. How did it go? Did it go together as easy as the old one, or was there new challenges? Easier.
The front fit the same, essentially. You still got to trim your fenders and for length and things like that. But as far as the rear, the roof's two pieces, and then the quarters just, bolt on rivet on, and it's all flange fit. You didn't have to trim a bunch of stuff to get the rear quarters on the car, and that made it a lot easier.
You're one of the, I guess, Northwest guys is what you can call yourself, and where you're from and where you race and that sort of thing. And the SRL Spears Tour has not gone to this body yet. What is the feeling like, as we talk to a lot of people from the East Coast on this body? Let's just call it a little bit of a debacle. It's not being approved for ABC Series this year. So what is the thought process in terms of what you can take from what you've heard and how you feel about this whole body discussion with the new 5-star body, as opposed to some of the series that are not running it?
I know everybody's big on aerodynamics, but when you're on a 3/8 mile short track for the majority, I've lost body parts in still one races. And so you can't tell me that that is a significant advantage of any form on a short track. So to me, I think that people are just scared of a new look. And so they use that for an excuse to essentially kick out a new idea,
Yeah. People claim it's a cost thing too. Would you agree with that or not?
No, I completely disagree with that. If you're racing, and I don't care if you're big names that are out racing that you hear about all the time, or the littlest guy. If you tear up your body, the body doesn't cost any more to fix it. If you're building a new car, you're buying a new body. So it doesn't mean you have to run out and buy a body today just because Joe bought a body thinking that you're going to get beat, because that's not the case. You're not going to get beat by the body, Anybody in racing should know that.
Yeah.
So to me, when you go to build your new car, you're like, hey man, I trashed my body. I got to buy another one anyway. Then maybe that's the time you upgrade.
This weekend at Speedfest, Michael, I'm sure you heard about it, was Bubba kind of stood up and he had a town hall meeting per se. Did you read the story that we had on Speed 51, and did you agree or disagree?
Not.
Okay, well,
I did not get to read it, so.
He basically wanted answers. He wanted to see me being there. He just wanted basically short track racing to come together instead of being divided with who's running the body, who's not, this whole thing with the Gleason rear end versus the spool. He basically just wants everybody to be unified, which is a great idea, but a lot of things have to happen. Obviously, you're on board with the new body, which is how do you feel this thing could be solved? Do you want a driver's council, or do you just hopefully things get done on the back end?
I don't think a driver's council is a bad idea. Then you can take out the people that, sometimes certain people have favoritism. So if you can get a nice count on things, that's always a good thing if you get the right people involved.
Yeah, I agree with you. What about this Chili Willy race, though? I wanted to go out to it. I've talked to John and Tim and so forth the past couple of years, and like, you got to come out. And I do have to at some point, unfortunately and fortunately, work, life, family, all that sort of stuff. You know how it goes. Business gets in the way. You were up at 4 o'clock this morning. But what is that Chili Willy race like, and what is it becoming?
It's becoming a pretty big thing, I think. John and the track owner down there and Tim, the tech guy, I think they're really trying to build something. They started 39 cars. There were supposed to be 40, but, it doesn't take long to get into lap traffic when you're in a situation like that. So it really makes the race pretty crazy, It's making the people in the front have to work at it just a little bit harder. I think it gives a good show for the fans. And I think that's what they're going for down there. And it's tough. Their track is very slick. The tires are very hard. So you got to have a lot of throttle control, and it's pretty wild.
Alec Jorgensen coming in as a wealth of knowledge. He just shot us a question. He wanted me to ask you about what it's going to be like running the full super late model schedule at Tucson, even though, being from Cheyenne, Wyoming.
Well, it's, they only have about 7 races on there, so it's only 7 trips. And I race locally at Colorado National Speedway, and I usually race a pro truck there one weekend, a super late model the next weekend. Well, we sold our pro truck, so Tucson's picking up the slack on when we get to go race.
And by the way,
I think it'll be a lot of fun.
That question was from Aaron Creed. I think Alec texted you, and it was from Aaron Creed.
Sorry.
But that's fine.
Yeah, I got the text from
Alec Creed would say on Twitter, "Hey, that was my question." No.
Sorry, Aaron.
Yes, want to make sure your credit is where credit is due where it is due. So, Michael, so you're going to do a super late model racing this year. Might we see you venture outside of that Tucson realm and so forth? And can you run that car at Colorado National at all when you do have those races? Okay.
Oh yeah. We'll have a full season at Colorado National as well. And and really, I wish they would have came together and SRL would have approved that body, or we'd be at the Winter Showdown right now.
There you go. There you go.
But just didn't happen, Yeah. That was our original plan, was to go to Tucson, then straight to the Winter Showdown. But we had to we needed to change body parts on our car anyway, and we had our car down to the frame, and I was like, man, I don't want to mount this old body back on here when this new body's out. So it kind of limited us in that factor.
Yeah, we're doing a lot of investigating on that whole situation, and we'll have a story when we feel we collected all the information that we need, honestly, because we're not going to go out there and just voice our opinions and so forth. We're going to collect all the factors on this from all different parties and so forth, and we're collecting all that information. We'll have a story to come about that whole body situation when it's appropriate, but it's certainly a hot topic that we'll be discussing all year long. Michael Scott, we appreciate you coming on board here on the Morning Bullring, and hopefully we'll be talking to you again at some point here on the Morning Bullring after maybe another big win.
Hopefully, maybe the turkey shootout.
Yeah, there you go. Turkey shootout at the end of the year. And we look forward to doing more things at Tucson with Speed51.com in the future months. Certainly, we got a lot of things cooking. But congratulations, and get back to work, dude.
Sounds great, man. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
You guys have a great morning.
Michael Scott with us here on the Morning Bullring. And good to learn a little bit more about some of the competitors that we don't get to see all that often.
Yeah, because they're only halfway across the country, or actually all the way across the country, not halfway across.
I was going to say, how far are you going? But that's only halfway.
Well, he's from Colorado, so it's like 3/4, right?
Yeah.
Tucson is, well,
yeah,
7/8.
Yeah, 7/8. There you go. Interesting, though. And I think this council that we saw, not start, but this town hall discussion that Brandon Paul was talking about there around the drivers' meeting on Sunday. Listen, I think it's going to become more prevalent. I think a lot more people need to have some voices, the right people. And I think, I know myself and several of the drivers, we're discussing a lot of things, and I think that needs to be done because all sides need to be heard from.
Absolutely.
And then, honestly, at some point, I think that one person needs to be, put in charge and make that ruling, gather all the information like Bill France Jr. and Sr. did, and make that decision. And I think people would respect that.
I think PRI would be a great time. If we're going to do a council, I don't think you even need a council. I think you need
just an open forum.
Yes, Bubba, say, look, we're having this meeting, and if you want your opinion in this meeting, we can, obviously have it scheduled so it's just not a bunch of people screaming and yelling. Have some sort of plan, like Bubba be there. Maybe Kyle can share his opinions on something. Just get that. I mean, we all know who the big guys in short track racing are. Get them in this meeting. PRI is a perfect place to do it, coming off the Snowball Derby. I think, it's easy to let it happen or to make it happen because the drivers are right. Their voice needs to be heard. Bubba's like, look, my phone is dead and all these things are coming out that I don't want. So somebody please call me so I can at least tell you where I think it should go.
I think one of the biggest things is the voices that need to be heard are the ones that are at the track supporting it.
Yes.
I mean, and this goes back to the days of message boards, and now it's social media. And I think the biggest thing I hate about social media is it gives everybody a voice, and some shouldn't be entitled to one.
Kenny Wallace said that.
If you're sitting,
Yes.
if your car has been sitting on blocks, or you don't even have a race car, and you're not out there supporting. I mean, give Bubba Pollard credit. He doesn't agree with everything that's going on. He's still at the racetrack supporting it. So I think that would be big, is to make sure the voices that are having the voice are the ones that have been out there and supporting it, not just everybody that has a Twitter account.
And I still say it goes one step further than that in terms of some things, like the body. What do the fans think? What do they want to see? There's a lot of discussion that could be had, and fans have some good input as well. So I think the fans, not for, the rear end situation, maybe, not for some of this other stuff that we're talking about, but the fans, maybe for the live pit stops, maybe for, like I said, the new body, they should be heard as well. And I feel very strongly about that. Hey, before we go, listen, if we didn't have this town hall discussion at Cordele, if we didn't have this big announcement for the Snowball Derby and all these great races this weekend, I think we would have been talking a little bit about Stephen Nasse and Casey Roderick.
Oh, yeah.
And we can't let the show go, even though we're like almost an hour overboard. We're going to cut off here in a couple of minutes, but stand by because this could be interesting, okay? And I'm going to paint the picture because I watched the video, okay? Battle for around fifth. Let's just call it that. Okay, Stephen Nasse, Casey Roderick. Casey does one thing to Stephen. Stephen does something maybe a little bit stronger to Casey. Mark, I'm going to start with you. because you're kind of a homer for both of those guys. You're a fan of Stephen Nasse. You're a fan of Casey Roderick. But who's right and who's wrong here?
Oh, he's itching.
Neither one. Neither one. It was hard racing.
Absolutely.
It was the end of the race.
But Casey was complaining about Stephen.
Yep.
Stephen never complained about technically Casey.
No, and I know. And here's the thing: when you're at the end of a 200 lap race, let's talk about the first 100 and however many laps. It was rampant throughout everybody. I saw harder racing in that entire race, front to back, for the entire duration of the race from everybody. And I'm kind of a tit for tat kind of guy. Okay, you run me up the track, I'll run you up the track.
Right.
You get me loose, I'll get you loose. And that's it's a give and take sport. Now, number one, nobody's perfect all the time. Maybe Casey made a mistake and got into Stephen. I don't think Stephen made a mistake in getting back into Casey. But I'll tell you what, I respect both of them, because I've honestly, and yes, I'm a homer for Casey Roderick, and I'm a homer for Stephen Nasse. I've never seen Casey drive somebody dirty intentionally. In all the wins that he had, and I've covered a lot of his races just because that's my region. And I can't remember. I know there was the incident down Red Eye Weekend at New Smyrna a couple of years ago. And when I watched that incident with Carter Stokes' car came to almost a complete stop in the middle of the corner as Casey was trying to make a last-ditch move coming to the checkered. Well, at that point, you got one guy stopping, one guy diving. Okay, it happened. To me, I've never seen Casey drive somebody dirty. But on that same token, and I go back to Stephen Nasse when he was about probably 13 years old, driving pro trucks down around Central Florida, and I watched him. And I watched him come into late models. Stephen Nasse races everybody the way they race him, period. Yeah. I see all the comments on Facebook and on Twitter, and Stephen junks, more stuff with Stephen Nasse. Stephen Nasse wrecks somebody else. I cannot tell you the last time that I saw Stephen Nasse go into a corner next to somebody for the first time in a race and clean his clock. It's just not him. He's a hard racer, and a racer hard. So I think they were both, I don't even want to say at fault, because I don't see any fault there. They were racing hard at the end of the race for a win. One guy did one thing, another guy did another. You know what? Checkered flag came out, it's over. That's it.
I'll keep it short. Here's what I saw. Casey Roderick, I'm going to call a spade a spade. He used up Nasse there. I mean, he did the old, I'm going to clear myself.
I don't think he knew it.
And hopefully he's going to lift.
Right.
But was he trying to take out Nasse?
He wasn't trying to take out Nasse, but he's like, I know my quarter's right here, but I know my quarter will bend a little bit, and I'm going to clear myself, and hopefully Nasse lifts. I don't think he expected Nasse to go in there and give him the boot, but it's usually the guy that does the harpooning first is usually the one that gets the boot. So there were faults on both ends, but it was racing. At the end of the race, short track racing, there's going to be contact, there's going to be tempers. This is short track racing. It is what
I can tell you one thing, Bob. The fans loved it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, and that's what we need more of. Listen, I think Casey Roderick certainly tried to squeeze, and maybe he didn't know he was quite where he was.
I think he knew exactly where he was.
But even if he didn't, here's the deal.
He did the same thing in the Pro Late Model race.
And that was listen, that was Stephen Nasse's point, and he made a great point in our story. Casey Roderick was not an easy racer in that Pro Late Model racer. Nope. He roughed up Dawson Fletcher, roughed him up. Mark my words. Okay? Stephen Nasse, by the way, you kind of said, dumped him or whatever.
I gave him the boot.
Gave him the boot. He didn't really give him the boot.
Well,
he just moved him out of the way.
A kick in the tail.
Yeah, moved him out of the way. If you mess with the bull, you're going to get the horns. You know Stephen Nasse, okay? If you mess with him, you're in trouble, buddy. And that's what I love about Stephen Nasse. Here's my problem. I didn't have a problem with anything that happened on the racetrack. Nothing. Not what Casey Roderick did and not what Stephen Nasse did. You know what I have a problem with? I have a problem, honestly, to some degree, with Casey Roderick whining after the race a little bit. Because if you look at the video and if you say he knew it, then guess what? He did it.
Yep.
And you got to know who you're racing with. And if it's Stephen Nasse, if you do one thing, you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, I wish it would have just, I think, from hearing from Casey you can see all that on the 51 Network. I don't know which.
Oh, yeah.
On the 51 Network.
Watch it on the Speed 51 Network. Highlights will be up at 5 o'clock today.
I think if it was just between Stephen and Casey, I think it would have been a lot smoother. I think Casey was more mad about some of the comments the crew guys had, and I think some of Stephen's family had stayed.
They should stay out.
I think that honestly got Casey fired up more than
Listen,
if he
Stephen
just
got him back
Stephen.
already.
Yeah.
Nobody should say anything at that point.
It should just be between. I hate when
And it
get
should be
involved.
over. The race is over. It should be over.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing
You
I'll
missed
add,
the helmet
though,
throwing, though.
Yeah,
I didn't see it.
The only thing I'll add to that, though, is you're not going to win races if you're not willing to push the envelope. Sometimes you push it too far.
Yeah.
Both of them did their job, what they needed to do on the racetrack.
My whole thing is when the checkered flag come out, okay, Casey keeps it in his mind. Okay, I did this and I got this back. Okay, crap happens. And Stephen Nassy should keep in his mind, okay, I got to remember that, he did that to me and I paid him back. And then you know what? The checkered flag's out. It's done.
At the end of the day, they got some bent fenders and crushed doors for fifth. That my brother,
That's what I said.
My brother,
That's what I said.
at Orange County, he run terrible. He was running like 6th or 7th. To him he was running terrible. And I think Matt Craig, he was trying to pass Matt Craig, and Matt Craig, every time he get to him, chop his nose, and he got by him, he doored him, and my brother went down and talked to Matt, and he's like, dude, we're racing for 6th place. Now I got to go spend $400 to put a door on this thing after I just probably got $200 to finish 6th. Like, come on.
Didn't Stephen Wallace and Augie Grill have an incident like that at the Rattler a couple years ago?
What did he call? I don't even know what he called him on his page.
I do. I'm not
Ray
gonna say
Charles,
it.
I think.
Yes.
Charles.
What you said is exactly what I said to Angie as we were watching. And we saw all the post-race antics and so forth. And I said, honestly, they're just, I guess to some degree. And I love Casey Roderick, but he was being a little bit of a whiner.
Yeah.
If you're gonna race hard and kind of squeeze somebody for a position, you got to expect to be paid back. And when it's Stephen Nassy, like he said, he goes, I know how he races. Well, then guess what? Be more careful to some degree. I'm just saying. So I'm more, saying that what happened after the race and the complaining and stuff was more out of hand, honestly, than some of the stuff that happened on the racetrack.
I agree with Casey. So I think it was some more of the extracurricular stuff as opposed to them just talking.
Yeah.
Because, go back to Bubba at Martinsville. All he wanted to do was talk to Lane. Drivers have to be able to talk after the race without crew members, without wives, without girlfriends, without moms, without sisters, without dads, without any of that crap. Let the two drivers talk about it. If they can settle it, fine. If they can't, they can't. But two drivers, the two guys in the car, because I'll say one final thing, and I know you're wanting to talk, but at the end of the day, and this goes back to when I was announcing at a racetrack, there's two guys that know what happened in that race. Only two, and it's Casey Roderick and Stephen Nassy. They're not going to see eye to eye, but those are the only two people that know what happened.
Yeah, and I don't even think they know sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why there's
or willing to admit
three
his and what happened.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. No, Ken Squire used to say that. There's his story, that other person's
truth.
story, and the truth is somewhere in the middle, and that's the bottom line. Folks, the one thing that I can say about this is it's awesome. Okay, because every time Casey Roderick and Steve Nassy get together, run on the racetrack right now, we're going to be watching, and we need more of that. We need more of Casey Rodericks. We need more of Stephen Nassys. I love them both, honestly. I'm like Kenny Wallace. I love everybody. Positive mental attitude. That's about it for the Morning Bullring. Make sure you tune in next week, 7:30 a.m. to 9:30 a.m.-ish. Here on Speed51.com. We are presented today by the OnlineRacingSchool.com. Check them out. Next week, I'll be out of town. I won't be in Studio 51. I'll be down in Florida at that time.
Alan Dietz.
That's right, Casey LaJoy and Alan Dietz. I'll be calling in to talk about the Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series. Make sure you'll watch that this weekend on MAV TV as well as Lucas Oil Racing TV. And the Winter Showdown, Friday and Saturday, live for Premium Network members only on Speed 51. That'll be from Kern County Raceway Park. Thanks for watching.